All right, the button has been pressed. Welcome to the Xbox 2 podcast on this Friday, November 20th. I am one of your hosts, Randolph Thor 19, the man with the million. And with me, as usual, as always, my right-hand man, Jez Corden of Windows Central fame, currently talking smack about his teammates in Overwatch. Absolutely hilarious stuff because we were waiting to start and he was playing some Overwatch and he's like, my team is trash, mates. All my teammates are trash. What's going on, buddy?
This Reaper just running into the middle of everything and getting killed, man. Anyway. Yeah, doing pretty good, man. Rock and roll. Slept up. Got my cup of tea. Actually, no, I don't. I finished it. Damn. Well, I don't have a cup of tea, but I'm ready to talk some Xbox things and all the cool news of the week. And yeah, how have you been? How have you been, my friend?
I've been actually pretty good. I've been doing what I love to do most of all, and that is play video games. You know, I'm sure a lot of people have noticed that I haven't tweeted much this past week, and I only made 2 videos because Rand's been playing video games on the Xbox Series X as well as the PlayStation 5. This is kind of what happens when games are out and available to play, and I want to play them all, is I don't spend a lot of time on social media, and I don't spend a lot of time making a video, even though I know I should, because people DM me all the time, like, when's your next video? I love your videos, which is always very humbling, because I think my videos suck, personally. Like, every time I watch one of my videos, and I was just like, it's okay, I guess. But then I watch like one of Dealer's videos or one of Colt Eastwood's videos, and it's just like, man, those are some real YouTubers. Like, look at the production value that they put into their videos, and I'm over here doing horrible stuff. So it's like, it's always humbling.
Don't be silly.
But it's always humbling when people, they want more from you, right? They want it, like, whatever you want to talk about, like, just make a video. And this week, I've just been busy playing games. Like, I want to make more videos, and I will. It's just that, like, I got games to play, bro. And that necessarily hasn't been the case the past, 3 months. There hasn't been much to play, but now there's stuff to play. And, I played a whole lot of stuff. So we'll be talking about all that, obviously. But we do have 1 year of Xbox Game Pass Ultimate to give away during the show. 1 year. That was provided to me from my very good buddy, Picamus Prime. He's in the UK. He won the Xbox Hall of Fame, Jez, over in the UK for most gamer score in the entirety of the UK. He also had the most achievements in the UK, but you're not allowed to win 2 prizes. So he's the Hall of Fame winner. He probably tagged you. He loves you, Jez. This is his favorite podcast. And he always talks about you because when I talk to him. See, me and Pig, we actually did a podcast back in the day called the Gamerscore Popcast around 2013, 2014, 2015 with like Stallion 83, who was, at the time had the most Gamerscore in the world. So we've known each other for a long time. And at one point, I had more gamer score than Pig. I have 1.2 million right now. Pig has like 2.2 million. There was a time where I had more gamer score than him. There was a time where when I hit 1 million, I was like the 5th person in the world to do it. Yeah, but he loves the podcast, and he wanted to give us the code for 1 year Game Pass Ultimate. So we will be giving that away later on in the show. To a lucky listener. I haven't yet decided how we're going to do that, but we will do that. Somebody will win, and obviously I'd rather it go to somebody who's actually here in the channel that we recognize. We got like Gunstar up in here. We got Cryptopsy, Lethal Papa. What's going on, Lethal? Haven't seen you around in a while. I've been on the PlayStation playing games, Lethal, so I actually haven't been in party chat with Lethal in a little bit. 9 Lives and Sin Vendetta, Shinso Elite. Dwayne Johnson, The Rock, is here. Excellent.
Oh, man. The Rock?
Yeah, I know.
Cool. We're growing up in the world, man.
I know, we are. We are. So, yeah, we got a lot to talk about in today's episode. Bethesda exclusivity, that whole topic comes up. Although, you might be a little bit surprised by me and Jez's take on this. The Game Awards snubbing Ori for Game of the Year. What kind of bull is that? Jim Ryan talking about a Game Pass competitor and when generation-defining games will start. Why are games running better on PlayStation 5? That seems to be a big thing, right? Assassin's Creed Valhalla essentially running better on PS5, even though Series X is supposed to be the most powerful console ever. A lot of games get delayed. A lot of stuff to talk about. So make sure you guys hit that like button, the subscribe button, notification bell, and most importantly, share this podcast out on wherever you share things, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. I don't even know if you can share out on YouTube, but just hit that little share button. Helps out the channel, helps out the podcast. And so Snazzy Crowd 1212 says, since Australia is cooler than the UK, can I download Forza Horizon 3 on my Series X and earn new car if I last bought and played it years ago? I don't really know what you mean. You can download Forza Horizon 3 on your Series X, but I don't think it got any new cars in quite some time. So, yeah. Killer Ace says, Watch Dogs Legion has major issues in Series X and won't unlock achievements properly. And will Valhalla be upgraded for Series X after the Digital Foundry video? I'm hearing some bad things about Watch Dogs Legion. A lot of people have messaged me about it. I've yet to play the game, even though Jez has talked about it on this podcast a lot. I'm sure they'll fix the stuff. And will Valhalla be upgraded after the Digital Foundry video? Maybe. Maybe. We'll talk about that later. And Sin Vendetta says,
that's a topic.
Yeah, Sin Vendetta says, same here, Rand. I've been playing Demon's Souls for a week straight, only on a week-long vacation. I completed my first playthrough and only have 2 trophies left to get the platinum. Well, you were really waiting for that game, so the fact that you pretty much have everything in it is pretty impressive. So, yeah. Anyways, Jez, how's your week been, buddy?
Been pretty good, man. Just working, playing games, same old, reviewed a bunch of headsets this week. Astro A20 2020 version headset. And that new headset from Corsair, their first Xbox headset, the HS75XB, I think it's called. Really good headset. And it's also the first headset I've used that Dolby Atmos, the app recognizes it as a Dolby Atmos headset. And then it gives you a bunch of extra features in the app. It's the first headset I've used that does that. So that was quite interesting. But yeah, other than that, pretty standard week, man. Pretty standard week.
Pretty standard. And your week is going to be pretty hectic because Black Friday is coming up too, right?
That is right. So next week is Black Friday, so Windows Central will be full of deal spam, and I'm going to focus on trying to find Xbox deals and sharing it with you guys. If you're looking for a deal on a headset or something, you might want to keep an eye on my Twitter feed next week.
I know Xbox also is running their Black Friday sale. There's 700 games on sale. I'm curious to know if any of you guys in chat have actually bought anything on the sale. And I know I used to make those videos where I would go over and tell you guys what I thought was worth it. But the same games are always on sale for almost the same prices. And I always kind of felt I was repeating myself every single video all the time in those videos, which is why I don't make them anymore. It's the same games for the same prices every single time. I went through the list and I was well, then, you see, I'm a bad person to kind of, because I usually, if there's a game I want to buy right away, I buy it right away, right? And I pretty much own everything anyways, so there's really nothing I want. I haven't bought Demon's Souls yet, which is, here's the thing, I don't even know if I want to play Demon's Souls. Why
not? Didn't you like Bloodborne?
I enjoyed Bloodborne, yes. I love Sekiro. It was my game of the year last year. But I've played I played Dark Souls 1. I don't like Dark Souls. I find Dark Souls slow and plotting and just straight up boring, right? And I think Demon's Souls is supposed to be more along the line of Dark Souls, clearly. They made From Software made Demon's Souls for PlayStation, and then whatever reason, PlayStation didn't continue the partnership, and then they went and basically made Dark Souls for Bandai Namco and became this huge franchise. So when I watch videos of Demon Souls, I just kind of look at it and be like, do I really want to play this? It looks a lot like Dark Souls, and I don't like Dark Souls. And it's like, maybe I should, maybe I like it. Look at this guy, Xbox Killer, laughed my ass off. He doesn't want to play because it's on PlayStation exclusive. What does that guy have to do with anything? I literally just beat Astro's Playroom and Spider-Man Miles Morales, and I'm currently playing Pathless on PlayStation. I couldn't care less if the game is exclusive to PlayStation. I'm talking about if I would enjoy the game. I don't have any issues spending the money, but I just look at that game and I'm like, I'm not sure I'd actually really enjoy playing Demon Souls. I don't know. Maybe I will just because, but either way, yeah, Secretopsy says Demon Souls is about the same pace as Dark Souls, maybe a bit slower, but way harder. See, if it's about the same pace as Dark Souls, then I don't know. I might as well just save my $70 and buy it on something else. So, but yeah, we got a lot of things to talk about in this episode. So, like the podcast and share it out if you haven't already. And man, trolls come out in the chat. There's all like, what is with these trolls, Jez?
Just ban them, man.
Yeah, if you see any trolls, mods, see any trolls, don't even time them out. If they're just being trolly, just hide them from the channel. I don't even care. Trolls are boring. You're boring. Go play a video game. If you love PlayStation so much, just go play it. What are you doing here? Listening to an Xbox show. I mean, hell, like,
So
just
weird.
yeah. And I'm sick of it. Like, because I've been getting a lot of messages and DMs to people just like, I don't know, apparently because Xbox Series X isn't doing as well as the PlayStation 5, this means that, like, Rand lied and damn it. Like, when did I ever talk about hardware and all that stuff? Like, I specifically stay away from hardware talk on this channel because I don't know anything about the hardware or the tech. Yet some people think it's like, you lied and you spread misinformation and all that stuff. And I'm like, excuse me? You must have me confused with somebody else because I certainly didn't say those things. Because I wasn't sure, so they ain't me. You're looking at somebody else. Anyways, so before we get into the topics, I want to hear Jez talk about how Rand was right about Katana Zero.
Oh yeah, Katana Zero, man, what a game! I haven't finished it yet, so I'm not going to talk about spoilers because it's quite story heavy, isn't it? I didn't think it was. I just thought it was like a hack and slash sort of puzzle game with time mechanics or whatever, but nah, the story's a huge part of it, and my god, what a roller coaster! I don't want to spoil it because, like, for people who haven't played it, but I saw Katana Zero was on Game Pass, and I was like, yeah, I remember Rand talking about that. I'll give it a go.
Mm-hmm.
And it's basically like you play as a samurai or ninja, I guess, for I don't know what you call him, samurai, ninja, whatever. And you're an assassin for some mysterious clandestine organization, apparently. And you die in one hit, but so do the enemies. But you also have sort of the power to reverse time. Well, it's not really reversing time.
You're not really reversing time in that game.
Yeah, it's like it's his clairvoyance. Like he can, like, see things before they happen. And, like, every time you die, it's like there's like a little dialogue that players that says, like, oh, see, that won't work. So it's like him trying to psychically work out if that is a good path through the obstacle course, basically. Really satisfying to play, but man, it's the story that's really gripping. Like, it's like a total screws with your brain, man. I don't know what the hell's going on. Don't know what's real and what isn't real. That kind of game. So, looking for something new to play, side scroller with a really weird, twisted story. Check out Katana Zero because I'm super impressed with that game.
Dude, it plays so smooth. It's one of those games where it's like a 2D side-scrolling Ninja Gaiden, like fast-paced ninja. You're just slicing people up, and at the beginning you're like, this is pretty easy, right? You have this layout of this house, and guards are behind doors, and you're just knocking down doors, chopping people's heads off. But then, like, they add more enemies with different weapons, and you need to kind of take different routes and use like an axe throw it at like a steam vent to obscure your movement. So constantly is like adding tougher and harder enemies to make it, change up your tactics. And then it has this really interesting story going on. about how there was this guy. You essentially, have this ability to like see the future. So like while you're playing the game, you're running scenarios through your head about the best way to go through it and get through something without dying, and then you do it. It's so well put together, and the story's just
really
as
unique.
Yeah, it's just as interesting as the gameplay. And then there's the music, because the music is absolutely phenomenal. If you
Oh yeah, 80s synths. Oh man,
It's so good, and it's on Game Pass. I think it was on PC and Switch to begin with. I'm not sure it's on PlayStation currently, but like, please, I know we talked about it when I played this game, but like, if you haven't played Katana Zero, play this game. It's like maybe 4 hours long if you play through it. It's totally worth it, and if you got Game Pass, it's essentially free. So Jez, I've been playing a lot. It's all about video games, right? So on Xbox Series X, I was playing some Dirt 5, which is the footage that I'm currently showing here, right? So Dirt 5 was one of the games we got early with the Xbox Series X. Now, you had the Xbox Series X way more than I ever did, right? You had it like a month before I got it, right? Or maybe 3 weeks before, something like that. I got it 2 weeks before launch. And one of the games that I was able to get early was Dirt 5. Outside of like the backwards compatibility titles, like Dirt 5 was a brand new game that was like, hey, this is going to be taking advantage of the Series X. You can play it. That and like Yakuza and a couple other games. And I remember playing Dirt 5 on the Series X when I got it and being completely underwhelmed with the game. Like, it didn't look good. The menus had no music, and the game was like buggy. They were screen tearing. Even like at that point in time, I didn't have VRR enabled on my CX, and it was just like, man, I don't really think this game's any good. Like, the beginning races are kind of boring, and like, it just didn't seem like a great racer. And then when you played Forza Horizon 4, it was like, man, Forza Horizon 4 is just better in every way. It looks better, it runs better, right? And I was just like, man, they really screwed it up with Dirt 5. But then they patched the game, they got it ready for release, so I went back to it this week. And I have to say, it's been improved greatly. I think it looks much better than it did when I first played it, to the point where like there's certain there's this footage in here where you're driving at night in a rock quarry, and I thought when I was playing it just looked beautiful. Like, it was a really good looking game, and it performs way better. There's no more screen tearing. They fixed all the problems with the menu and like the story, so now I can actually hear Troy Baker. And like the part in the beginning with certain races just being boring, due to the style of race and like where you're racing. But I gotta say, like, I've been enjoying Dirt 5. I mean, I don't think it's as good as Forza Horizon 4, but like my initial impressions when I originally played it was like, this game is like a 6, right? And then now that I'm playing it now, after it's been completely updated, like, it's a pretty damn solid racing game, in my opinion. Probably like an 8. There's a lot of different tracks. There's some really cool ones, even with like the ones where you race on the ice and stuff like that. Like, I think the game looks good. I think I appreciate the different style of tracks. And like some of the races are like 3 laps since when you start in daytime, and then it kind of gets night, and you can see like the Aurora Borealis show up, where it really kind of adds like a visual flair to the races that I think are pretty cool. So I've been enjoying my time with Dirt 5. Really, really actually liking it once they updated everything.
I never did give it much of a chance when it was in the preview program for the same reasons as you. Like, it just felt rough, and the screen tearing was so bad it made me feel ill. But I'll go back and give it a go. I'm not the biggest fan of racing games, but
no,
I'm intrigued to give it another blast.
Yeah. But also mainly I've been playing on PlayStation 5 this week. So I played and I finished Astro's Playroom, and I actually got the platinum, my 3rd platinum on PlayStation. First being God of War, then being Ghost of Tsushima, and now Astro's Playroom. I legitimately had a really good time with that game.
Astro's Playroom?
Yeah, the free game that's with the PlayStation 5.
I haven't heard a bad thing about that game. It seems like everyone thinks it's really cool.
It's really cool.
And honestly, that's something that that's something that Xbox really lacks is a high quality 3D sort of platformer with a cute character. Like Microsoft just doesn't have that right now. It was supposed to be lucky, but whatever happened there?
Yeah. No, it's a very cute platformer. It controls very well. It's like a PlayStation love letter. Like you go through the different eras of PlayStation 1 through 4, and it really sells the DualSense to the point where when I first started playing that game, I thought the DualSense was going to be this huge innovation. Like PlayStation has made essentially a next-gen controller. And I was disappointed that Xbox decided to go and just refine their controller and only really add the share button and the dynamic latency input. Like, I was sitting there, and when you're, like, on ice in Astrobot, and he's, like, skating, you can feel it in the haptics. Or, like, the raindrops when you're walking in the rain and dropping on the umbrella, like, you can feel them in the haptics. Like, I'm not that big of a fan of the resistance triggers on the you know, R2, L2. Like, I would turn those off in Call of Duty or whatever. Like, I'm not a fan of something that's making it harder for me to press the triggers. But the haptics in the grips are phenomenal. To the point where, like, I think it really... How that game felt in the controller really... like elevated my feelings about Astro's Playroom probably more than it would have done if I had just played it with the standard controller, right? The campaign is probably... There's 4 worlds, and each world has 4 levels, and you can pretty much beat each world in like 15, 20 minutes if you just kind of go through it from start to finish and not look for any secrets. But if you're looking for everything, the game takes probably around 4 hours. If you're looking to just beat it, you could probably beat it in like an hour and a half. It's really cool, right? And someone's like, oh, Rand's changing the PlayStation. No, I'm not. I'm just telling you guys what I've been playing. I bought a PlayStation 5 and a Series X. Well, I got a Series X. And I'm going to be playing on both because I'm not going to miss out on anything. So I'm just... You know, I bought my PlayStation. I'm going to play stuff on it. Like, what am I going to buy it and have it sit there and not do anything with it, right? But now I've changed on my stance on the DualSense, okay? Because at first, like I said, I was like, man, this is really impressive technology. I wish Xbox had done more with their controller based off my experience only in DualSense. And then I played Miles Morales and the Pathless, and the DualSense does absolutely nothing for those games. So now I'm kind of back on this train of the DualSense being more of a gimmick than like something like super cool. And I've beaten Spider-Man Miles Morales, and it's great. And I did everything in that game you can imagine. 15 hours, right? I only have like 2 trophies left. I thought the campaign was fantastic. Miles Morales is a great character. Like, the way they kind of spice up his combat with the Venom powers was really cool. I mean, the game is fantastic. It looks phenomenal. The load times, Jez, like, this is the big thing for this gen. It's all about load times. Like, you start up the game, and it's like 3 seconds from when you press start at the main menu, you know, from the AI or the UI, and like you're in the game, and like when you fast travel, it's like 2 seconds, right? So it's like, cool. Like, Miles Morales is amazing. Sony did a great job making sure that even if this game was originally going to be a PS4, DLC or whatever, I don't know if that's true, but even if it was, kudos to Sony for basically being like, no, this is going to be a PS5 launch game. Because it provides that kind of next level, like, wow factor. Like, here's a brand new game. And I really enjoyed it, except the DualSense doesn't do anything in that game. Like, it rumbles a little bit in cutscenes, and it doesn't do much. Like, so I was like, I went from Astrobot thinking the DualSense was this revolution in controllers, and then I played this game, and I'm like, it doesn't do much. So then, after I beat Spider-Man Miles Morales, which there isn't really much to say. I mean, if you played Spider-Man 2018, it's pretty much the exact same. It's the same open world. You know, they it's just less of the extra stuff. Instead of like all these bases to clear, like in Spider-Man 2018, you only have 6 bases to clear. Instead of like all these different collectibles, you only have like one set, and they're all small. Like you can definitely tell based on his new powers and the skill tree and the collectibles and stuff that this is definitely a game that was designed to be shorter, right? Tommy J says that's not true. There's tension when you swing. Yeah, but it doesn't enhance the experience. Like my point is that the DualSense with Astrobot enhanced the experience to the point where it made the game so much more enjoyable than it would have been playing without the controller. When playing with Spider-Man and using the controller, I feel like I would have had the exact same experience playing the game without the controller.
Did you play it without that before, though, on the PS4?
Yeah, I mean, I played Spider-Man 2018. Yeah. So, I mean,
your brain is doing a direct comparison to that, really, isn't it?
Yeah, like, I don't think the DualSense is, that does anything worth noting in Spider-Man. I think it's a poor implementation of it.
Fair enough.
But, like, I mean, like, dude, Miles Morales is spectacular. And then I played the Pathless, which is the game I'm playing now. Now, if you guys don't know what the Pathless is, it's a game that Sony showed off at one of their events. It's from the makers of Abzu, right? And it's this open world game where you're a hunter and you kind of have to take down these gods. So you're in like an area, and there's this like red storm, and in this red storm there's like a animal, say like a big kind of I don't know, like big dragon. And you're supposed to stay away from there. And what you're supposed to do is you have these 3 towers scattered about. And you need to bring the keys to, like, clear up the tower. And once you clear all 3, the boss becomes, he basically becomes weakened and you can start a fight with them. It's the game that Sony showed off where essentially you like running around in the open world, and there's these like little talismans that are floating around, and you use your bow to kind of keep up the momentum. So like the movement in the open world is so smooth, so great, right? Just getting from one part of the area to the next part is great. And there's really no like there's storytelling, but most of it is done through like environmental stuff. Like the game doesn't really point out like. It has this mechanic where you can like flip on a mask and you can kind of see areas that you maybe should go to because there might be something over there. And then when you get to that point to get a key to clear up the tower, there's like little puzzles to solve, essentially. Usually you have to like light braziers with fire and that'll give you a key. Or you have to like shoot your arrow through a bunch of hoops. So a lot of the puzzles revolve around that, like moving mirrors with your hawk or clearing up certain spaces so you can actually fire arrows through stuff to get the key. So a lot of the puzzles revolve around that, and those can kind of be a little bit simple. But what I was most impressed by was the fluidity of the movement in the open world, and then the individual boss battles. Like, they're phenomenal. Like, once you kind of weaken the boss and you go about like taking down his defenses, you kind of do this final section of a boss fight, and each final section of the boss fight is completely different than the one before. Like the first 2 that I fought, where it was like, I don't even want to spoil it for people, but one was kind of like a bullet hell dodging sequence. The other one was more like a hide and seek section. And it was just so cool playing the Pathless, because it's like the high quality indie game that I really like. I know people really kind of gravitate to the big AAA games like Miles Morales and Gears Tactics and Assassin's Creed Valhalla and stuff like that, right? Like those big high production games. But when I see an indie game that is, what I consider like high production, like, I don't know, I want to play it. So like was like, you know what? I'm going to play the Pathless before I'd play Demon's Souls. And I'm glad I did. I haven't finished it yet, but I'm really enjoying the game so far. Judah says, last week
That's
I
cool,
mentioned issues with Skate 3 on the Series X and it's shutting down the console. Turns out a workaround is to turn off HDR10, so fixable. FYI to anyone else having same issue and a fan of Skate 3. Well, thanks for the update.
HDR10?
Yeah, apparently HDR10. Morgan says, hey Rand, try Demon Souls with the DualSense. It's amazing. I think because Miles Morales was cross-gen, it didn't utilize the features fully. That could be very much the case, because the DualSense with Pathless doesn't do anything either. I mean, it does. Like, I'm not saying it doesn't do anything in Miles, and it doesn't do anything in Pathless. I'm saying what it does doesn't impact the enjoyment, or doesn't have like the same impact that Astro did. Like Miles, it's very subtle, and I don't think. And if you played it with the regular controller, you wouldn't lose anything. Same thing with the Pathless. The only thing that it does is when you're kind of pulling your bow, it kind of rumbles a little bit, but that's it. Like, you'd have the same experience on a regular controller. And that's where Astro you would have a completely different experience. So, out of the 3 games I played so far on PlayStation, I felt the DualSense only was really good in one of them. Now, that may change. I might play Demon Souls and be like, hey, the DualSense is... a great feature, but I haven't got to that point yet. I know a lot of people are probably like, wait a minute, you're talking nothing but PlayStation games. Well, we talk about the games we play here. This is more of a gamer podcast than anything else. I mean, I got a million gamer score for a reason, guys. I don't, I play fucking video games. Like, I don't, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know what to tell you guys. I don't care if it's on PlayStation or if it's on Xbox. I'll play whatever the hell I feel like it. Right? And I also beat Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War campaign, Jez.
What did you think of that? Because I don't play Call of Duty campaigns typically, but I have been playing the multiplayer. So
yeah, so
you can regale us.
I've been doing a lot, man. You can tell. I've been playing a lot of video games. You know what I mean? You can definitely tell they didn't have a lot of time to make a campaign. You could definitely tell they only had a couple years to make this game because it's short. I think I beat it in 5 hours, give or take. And it's definitely it's good. It's a good campaign. But I would say there's only one level that really stands out at all. Like when I'm thinking about the levels that were in the game, there's a level later on that is really good. But most of it, like, the experience of playing that game has already kind of faded from my mind. Like, it's kind of that forgettable.
This is like part of a wider philosophical problem where Call of Duty probably, like, so few people actually probably play the campaign. Most people are probably like me, who just get Call of Duty every year and jump straight into the multiplayer. Like, at what point do you just decide it's not worth it anymore?
Well, see, the thing is, like, I don't know. Like last year's Call of Duty Modern Warfare, like, I still remember a few of the levels, like that night level where you're like, going through the house, or the level at the TAC on the street, right? Like, there are levels that there are levels that I remember from Modern Warfare that the level like at the embassy that I still remember and can think on and remember points where I was like, yeah, that was really cool. This Call of Duty, like, yeah, like I beat it like last weekend, and I was just kind of like, there's like one section in the beginning, maybe the very first level that's a little bit memorable, but other than that, it's like this Call of Duty just kind of came and went. I'm not gonna say because I don't want to ruin the story for anybody. But yeah, 5 hours, and that's playing on normal, and it was piss easy on normal. Like, I would imagine if you played it on a harder difficulty, you would get some more time out of it, right? But it was just so easy, and it was kind of just forgettable. Like, yeah, I mean, you talked about the multiplayer a little bit before we started the show, and you're not necessarily a fan of it.
I mean, it's okay. It just plays like Call of Duty, and I've only got so much tolerance for it. I don't know if it's just because I prefer Battlefield now, or I prefer Overwatch now, and when I try and play Call of Duty, I end up just getting so frustrated. It's like it's so weird because I'll get really mad at the game and I'll think that I've done really badly, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then I'll look at the board at the end and it's like, oh, I'm number one, I'm number two. But then I think like, even though I'm like top of the board, I was playing like so aggressively and stuff that I feel like I didn't have fun. You know what I mean? I don't know if it's my age or something, and I've just gotten to a point where I'm just like, I'd rather play something that's a little bit more tactical or a little bit more most collaborative, maybe. Like in Overwatch, like even if you're playing with randoms in Overwatch, you can like synergize well with a good player or a good tank or whatever. And if you're playing Battlefield, it's like you don't have to play. It's almost like it doesn't matter if you win in Battlefield, and for some reason it makes me less salty, I guess. But Call of Duty just makes me so salty for some reason. I don't know why. I just can't really get into it anymore. It's a more of a me problem. But what really bugs me about Call of Duty more than anything is you get to the kill cam, and what they see is completely different to what you see because of the latency. And it's like, man, he killed me before I could even see him on my screen. I don't know if that's just Call of Duty's server tech or something you have to just accept, but I never really feel like I've died in Overwatch or Battlefield because it was my fault. You know. I always feel like I mean that's what I mean. It's like when I die in Battlefield and Overwatch, it's my fault. I feel like that. But whenever I die in Call of Duty, it feels like it's latency or there's some lag or something like that, just because of the way the server infrastructure is. I don't know. But like, even disregarding my personal saltiness about it, I don't really like the maps. And I kind of like, I've looked around the Call of Duty community and a lot of people felt the same way. They just feel really boring, uninspired. Like those sort of classic Call of Duty maps that everyone remembers from like the Modern Warfare days and stuff like that. It just doesn't feel like very inspired. I could like imagine this is like a pile of recycled assets, and I don't know. It just felt like nothing new, nothing special, nothing interesting. RCXD, gunship getting wrecked by attack choppers constantly, basically getting farmed if you start to lose. I don't know. It's just I'm just kind of over it, man. I don't know what more they could do to sort of change it up at this point. But at the same time, do they even need to? It's the best selling game every year, year in, year out. No matter what I say, no matter what game reviewers say, no matter what anyone salty on the internet says, it's people buy it year in, year out. It's like it's more of an institution than a game now. And I don't know. Every time I play it, I just don't really care that much for
Like,
it.
it's so weird because last year's Call of Duty Modern Warfare was phenomenal. It was one of the best Call of Duties in a long time. Not only
I
from
had a fair bit of fun.
not only
playing
from
that, and
campaign,
I
but
don't
also
know.
the multiplayer as well as like the Warzone. And like this year's Call of Duty, it's like you can definitely tell the shorter dev time is a factor. Um,
Yeah, it just feels uninspired. The maps just don't feel very interesting. Like I had more fun with Modern Warfare, like you say, and maybe part of that is just because I don't know. There's almost a nostalgia factor to when it comes to Modern Warfare. I don't know, but yeah, it
well,
is what it
Fuzzy
is.
wants to know how many endings did I play through. I played through both endings on Call of Duty. They actually have a good ending and a bad ending, which props to them.
Mm.
Obviously, the good ending is longer, and that's obviously supposed to be the real ending. But there is an ending that is bad that you actually can play through, which is kudos to them for putting in, and it does make sense from a story perspective. I'll give them that. Like a lot, like it does make 100% legit story sense to have a good and a bad ending depending on a choice you make at the end of the game. So I saw both, and then I also and there's this really cool like level towards the end of the game where you're kind of going through, shall we say, I'm not even going to say it, but there's different paths you can take. And I even went through all the different paths you can take in that level to see the different stuff. So, yeah, I played both endings. I would imagine the one ending is going to be, the good ending is going to be the canon ending, but it was cool of them to put in the other one. Christian Tuttle says, "Hear me out. We give the Halo IP to Double Fine. You want Double Fine to be the owners of the of of Halo? That'd be interesting.
That's weirdly compelling. I don't know
Yeah.
why.
Anyways,
I'm down for that. Do it. Let's do it.
yeah. So that's pretty much what I've been playing: Dirt 5 and Call of Duty on the Series X, and Astro's Playroom, Spider-Man, and Pathless on the PS5. And once I kind of finish off the Pathless and maybe get the Demon Souls, I'll go back to Valhalla. Play Valhalla because that's the thing so far I love about this generation. And I know this generation is a week old, but like the majority of games I played, in fact all of them, are all 60 fucking frames, bro. None of the more of that filmic nonsense. Like Call of Duty is 60 frames, 4K, and ray tracing, although it has 120 frames mode that you can play right in the campaign. Dirt 5, 60 frames or 120 frames if you have the TV for it, right? Astro's Playroom, 60 frames. The Pathless has a performance and a resolution mode, and I don't know why you would want to play it on resolution mode because the game looks fantastic in performance and you need them frames. But honestly, even when it's Spider-Man is a different experience at 60 frames than at 30 frames. Like, I can't stress this enough. I don't know how people, and maybe this is being a little bit of a snobby kind of person, but I don't know how you can play Spider-Man at 30 frames, right? With all those visual features that they say it has, like ray tracing and all the extra stuff, right? And then you play it at 60 and think that it's a better experience at 30 frames. Because it is absolutely not. Like, playing at 30 frames versus at 60 frames, it's like, 30 frames feels like a goddamn flip book. And you're just kind of flipping through, it feels like that. Like, the game, in this weird thing, had changed the performance mode to resolution mode on me. So I'm sitting here playing Spider-Man, I'm like, why does this feel bad? Why does this feel wrong? And I'm like, eh. And I was like, wait, so I went in the settings, and it had switched back onto resolution mode, so it was running at 30 frames. And I'm like, all right, now I'm going to put it back in performance. And it's like, I don't know, and it's like, it was so smooth, and honestly, the game, when you play it in 60 versus 30, it doesn't look so much worse than, losing the ray tracing and all that stuff. The game looks phenomenal in 60 frames mode. I don't get it. I don't get the people that say they can't see 60 versus 30 frames because, Jesus Christ, if you play the same game back to back at 30 and 60 and you tell me you can't see the difference or feel the difference, that's crazy, bro. That's crazy, ray tracing, get rid of it. Don't even care. Give me 60 frames. That's why I'm disappointed something like Watch Dogs Legion doesn't have a 60 frames mode. Disable ray tracing and just give me 60 frames.
Such a Philistine. Ray tracing 30s where it's at, man.
No, it's not.
Get those beautiful vistas, all those ultimates. It's the new filmic, baby.
No, it's not.
Ray
it's
tracing
not 60 frames. 60 frames all day, every day.
Man, I again, it comes back to the whole sort of debate about, I don't care about frame rate in a single player game. Playing Call of Duty, yeah, give me the frames. But if I'm playing a single player game, I want to be immersed. Man.
Yeah,
so give me those rays.
But
I want to look in a window and see my reflection.
But Spider-Man, the swinging is better with the 60 frames. The combat is superior. The combat is superior because you need to be quick.
You are fake news.
No. Anyways, 60 frames, please. And I will say there's been one bad experience about the PS5. Most of my experience has been good for the most part. It has to download system updates, right? And I mentioned before, last week, that the very first system update took 4 hours to download. And it was just I just want to play. Why is this taking 4 hours to download, right? Which is weird because once I got in, I downloaded 40 gigabytes of Spider-Man Miles Morales in 10 minutes, right? And I was just like, that's weird. So then they released a second system update. And that took 3 hours to download, Jez. Right?
It's probably because, everyone
I don't think
is
so.
trying to download it at the same time.
I don't think so. It took
No?
3 hours to like. So this is 2 system updates that have taken 3 to 4 hours to download that are 800 megabits, right? And then,
Megabits.
like, I bought the Pathless, which is 5 gigs, and it downloaded in 5 seconds. I mean, 5 minutes. So I don't understand what's going on. Why my system updates take 3 to 4 hours to download when games that are 40 gigabytes take 10 minutes. I don't understand if if there's a problem somewhere in my PlayStation 5. Like I kind of want to think there is, but then can there be when it's downloading the games and what is like normal speed for my Wi-Fi? Like I don't understand.
Have you looked on Sony's website to see if there's specific ports you need open for their updates?
No, I haven't done that. I haven't done that. But anyways,
Well, maybe you should do that.
that's kind of been my experience with the PS5. So I know a lot of people are saying, "Hey, it took 5 minutes and all that stuff," but I mean, it took 3 hours for me. So I mean, I don't know. It's like I hope they don't really put out a lot of system updates because I don't want to have to go through that the whole time. Anyways, so that's the games we've been playing. If you enjoyed it, if you're sitting here waiting for us to talk about all the good topics, make sure you hit the like button, share this out, social media, subscribe, hit the notification bell. You know what to do. And yeah, I love video games so much, Jez. I honestly do. Like, I know like the last few months there hasn't been much to play and it kind of been down on stuff, but now that the games are here, oh my god, like love it. Like so much to play, so much to do, so many different games. DJ says stop playing on Wi-Fi, Rand. That's terrible. Well, unfortunately, that's the only way I can get my Series X and PS5 is on Wi-Fi. So
Wi-Fi. See, you're sitting there complaining about 30 frames per second, and you play with Wi-Fi.
I mean, what does it matter if you're playing single player on Wi-Fi, Jazz? You're not competitive.
Yeah, because you can't play it at all because you downloaded an update.
Yeah, but the thing is, the update takes 3 hours. But when I download 40 gigs through Wi-Fi, it takes fucking 10 minutes.
You have filmic updates.
Yeah. Whatever. Either way, I mean, I'll eventually have them both all wired and stuff. But right now, they both have to be wireless for right now. So, yeah, Wi-Fi sucks. Normally everything would be wired, but I can't do that right at this current moment. So, Jez, let's start talking about some of this stuff. And
stuff is good.
We're going to start with a rumor that the one and only Hazardor sent me that I sent to you because I thought it was just completely bull, but it's something funny to talk about. Square Enix selling all their stuff to Ubisoft because of how bad Marvel Avengers bombed. How viable do you think this is, Jazz Corden?
Okay, so this is a 4chan rumor.
Yes. So, as with most...
never believe anything
no.
on 4chan.
No.
It's a rule of thumb. However, just for the sake of the podcast and the sake of discussing it, I really like this rumor because Square Enix bad, Ubisoft good, basically. I have been so depressed with Square Enix handling of Deus Ex. They offloaded IO and Hitman, and it's with that in mind, is a stretch to think they would offload the rest of it. I don't think so. How do you screw up an IP like Hitman? Like how do you do it? Clearly, Square Enix doesn't really. I don't know. They sort of haven't had a much luck with their Western games, let's say, and they've had more success with their sort of RPG, like their JRPGs and stuff like that. Obviously, they make Dragon Quest, which is absolutely massive in Japan. Like, I had no idea how big Dragon Quest actually was. Are you aware of this, Ran?
What? What?
Are you aware? Are you aware of how big Dragon Quest is in Japan?
No, I'm not aware. I mean, I know it's big. I mean, how big is it?
Bigger than Final Fantasy. It's bigger than Final Fantasy.
So it's like the biggest. Is it the biggest Japanese franchise there is? Essentially,
no,
or the biggest JRPG franchise?
I think that's Pokemon. If we're calling Pokemon a JRPG,
right?
But like, it's basically Dragon Quest is like a cultural, thing there. There was like a national holiday for when a Dragon Quest game launched. At one point, apparently. But my friend who is well versed in Japanese culture assures me that this game is massive, and the fact that it's coming to Game Pass is also massive. So that's interesting. But going back to the rumor, the fact that they offloaded IO and Hitman certainly does seem to suggest there is a precedent for them wanting to offload some of their Western IP and devs. And we all know how terribly Marvel's Avengers did. Like, how do you screw up one of the biggest IPs in the world? I don't know. Square Enix managed to do it.
They screwed up Deus Ex as well.
Yeah, and screwed up Deus Ex, one of my favorite franchises. So I would love it if Square Enix gave Tomb Raider, Soul Reaver, Deus Ex, all those games to Ubisoft. Because Ubisoft finally gets some new IP to play with rather than having to build up their own. Because building new IP is hard. B, Ubisoft games are good. But they're kind of, they're beating the Assassin's Creed drum to death. They're beating it to death. What if they could make something a little bit more focused around plot? Something a little bit more, wide linear with hubs like Deus Ex. That'd be pretty cool. I'd love to see what Ubisoft's team could do with that. And, I'd love to see what Ubisoft's management style, how that could support like the IDOS and the teams there. Because let's face it, whatever Square Enix corporate is doing with IDOS and some of their other devs, it ain't working. It ain't working, baby. So, I don't know. This rumor's probably BS, like a lot of 4chan stuff. But I'm for it, man. I'm for it. What do you think?
Here's the thing. I really like a lot of Square Enix games. And, like, when you see something like this, right, based on the fact, like, hey, one of our games bombs, like, the idea of, like, one game bombing, so we need to sell off the entire IP that we own from the Western operations, obviously that raises a little bit of red flags for me. It's in the same way that, like, it's a 4chan rumor where it's like, and the guy literally starts off, video game insider here, folks. Like, like literally, I sent you the picture and it's like, video game insider here. Square Enix posted horrible losses because of Marvel Avengers and will be selling its IP to Ubisoft. Like, please.
Hang on a sec. Are you telling me that you don't introduce yourself as a video game insider whenever you, meet someone new?
Whenever I meet somebody new, like when I go to the post office and they're like, can I help, who's next? And I go up to them like, video game insider here would like to mail something across the nation.
Yeah, man, I do that. I do that all the time. What are you talking about?
Yeah, obviously I think Marvel Avengers was a big bust for Square. Like, huge bust, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if that game's ever going to recover. I mean, they can try with the Kate Bishop DLC. Remember how people were pissed off about the whole Spider-Man thing, and now nobody cares about Avengers whatsoever? I just find it highly unlikely that because one game bombed, that they would start like selling off all their important IPs, because companies rarely, if ever, sell off their IP. You know what I mean? So when I look at it like that,
well, that's what I mean. There's a precedent for it with Hitman. That's all.
Well, I don't think. Well, see, I don't think they gave away Hitman. I still think they licensed Hitman to IO Interactive. I don't think IO Interactive owns it outright. Sure? I'm pretty sure it's a licensing deal. Yes, I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure.
That's. Hang on.
I know. Trust me. I know. You can go find an article where they say that, but also when you look at some of the stuff, like I've seen the fine print where it says that like Hitman is a registered trademark of Square, and that they're licensing it to IO Interactive. Either way.
Well, damn.
Well, damn what?
I didn't know that. I thought they owned it outright.
I don't think they own it outright. No, I could be wrong on that. I think, maybe I am wrong. I know people will be like, well, here's the information, but either way, the sell off. It's one thing to sell off one IP, but it's another thing to sell off like all of their own IP. You know what I mean? And Ubisoft, would you really want Ubisoft to be the ones to take it? The company that has basically turned every one of their franchises into the same thing. A variation of every single same game. Like, you're telling me that you want a Deus Ex, open world Deus Ex, with towers to go climb and clear the fog, like that essentially is like Valhalla, or open world Tomb Raider that plays like, very similar to like maybe Immortals or whatever. Like, that's the thing. It's like, not that like I would be against them selling their IP. Obviously, I'd be like, if Square Enix was selling, I'd be like, yo, Xbox, you need to maybe like put a bid in there, get some studios, get some of those IPs. You know, Tomb Raider's all about nostalgia. So's Deus Ex, right?
No, but dude, man, let's hold the phone here for a moment, fam, because Microsoft has barely shipped any games with all these new studios they've got. Do you really want to overload them with more IP that can just leave there dormant for a million years?
Mm-hmm. Yes. I'm just saying, I just don't think Ubisoft would be the better approach because they'll just turn every single game into the same game. Not saying that I wouldn't be okay with them selling their IP to somebody, just not Ubisoft. I
Well,
mean,
you have to presume, right, that if for the sake of humoring, this rumor is true, that they are also selling the studios, right? That's
potentially.
what
Obviously, if they're selling the IP, I
that's
would
what I
imagine they're
think
selling
would
the
apply.
studios, right?
Yeah, I mean that's what it implies. Oh my god, I'm dead. But that's what it implies. You know, they're buying the studios, and maybe the studio could be like, "Yeah, this is how you make a Tomb Raider game," and Ubisoft's like, "Oh, it is possible to make a game that is open world without towers. It is possible, you know," and and from that, Ubisoft invests in the IDOS management structure, and instead of dictating them that every game has to be open world with towers and loot and all that stuff, maybe they could just let them make their own game without Square Enix saying, "Yo, this needs microtransactions. Yo, this needs a multiplayer mode. Yo, where's the engagement opportunity here?" But you got to remember, Square Enix is it's a mobile. They're a mobile-oriented dev now. Like a lot of people don't think about this stuff, but Square Enix, they're a mobile dev. You know, all their biggest games are on mobile, like Final Fantasy Brave Exvius and all these other weird mobile games they do. That's where Square Enix makes a lot of their money. Not necessarily from their console games anymore. Those times be done, man. Those times are over. So, Ubisoft, while I could see the concern that they might turn Deus Ex into an open world game with towers, I also think there's literally nobody else that could take it on right now. I wouldn't want Microsoft to have it because Xbox Game Studios, I'm sorry, still unproven to me. Who you're going to give that game to? Like every dev seems to have problems, you know, shipping games right now from Xbox Game Studios. Halo Infinite delayed, and you know, as an example, and then the rest of the games are like service driven. Do you really want to give like? Do you want to give Obsidian Deus Ex when they've got like so much on their plate already? Trying to make a service game with Grounded, and then you've got Avowed on the horizon, and God knows what else they're making. And there's like another project they're making, isn't it? Like a third project. I suppose like you could buy a studio and fold it into Obsidian, and then have that team make Deus Ex or whatever. I don't know, but I don't know. I just don't have a lot of faith in Xbox Game Studios at the moment. But I don't know. Either way, it's academic rand, and you know why?
Why?
Because the 4chan rumor, it's all bullshit anyway.
Yeah, I know. It was just something funny to discuss. Like, video game insider here, introducing you. Don't be
Uh,
surprised if websites start breaking this news later. And I'm sure probably some website is done, looking for clicks and stuff. Will be like, rumor, Square Enix to sell to Ubisoft. Yeah, okay, sure, right. Anyways, I thought that'd be a little fun. So
you know when you said yeah, okay, sure, my brain pulled that gif of that woman from the Hunger
Jennifer
Games saying,
Lawrence.
"Yeah, that's the
Yeah,
one."
yeah,
My
okay,
brain
sure.
literally pulled that gif into my head. So it was Jennifer Lawrence with your voice, and now I'm seriously creeped out.
Yeah, I would be creeped out too. Um, so the Xbox supply issues, Jazz. Basically,
Ooh.
all the consoles are sold out, right? CFO, which we will be talking about the Bethesda exclusivity in a little bit, basically said that supply will be. It'll be hard to get an Xbox probably up until around May. And then there was the announcement that a lot of games got delayed that were supposed to be Xbox exclusives, right?
Yeah.
Crossfire X, like originally supposed to come out this year, but then it kind of got to October and September, and we're like, yo, when is Crossfire X supposed to come out? And they were just they were just silent. Well, now they don't even have a date. It's just 2021. Medium got delayed because Cyberpunk's like, nah, bitch, this is our release date now. And so, and Medium's like, okay. I mean, what is Medium gonna do?
Yeah, you're speaking in gifs today.
So they move a month and a half later, right? But then there were also supposed to be some very high quality indies that Xbox were supposed to have first. Tunic was supposed to be launching with the console, although like clearly that didn't happen, and they haven't really said anything about it since. But Annapurna Interactive, which is one of the best indie publishers out there, like alongside Devolver Digital, in my opinion, like usually when those two companies release a game, you can expect it to be a very, very good game. And coincidentally, the Pathless, which is the game I'm currently playing on PS5, is published by Annapurna Interactive. You know, there's just some games, just know, like, there's some, like, publishers out there, like, when they release a game, it's like, yeah, they picked up that game because they know it's really good. Oh, and before I forget, since we kind of mentioned IO Interactive a little bit ago, right? Because you mentioned the Hitman stuff, like they own Hitman. Yeah. They announced a new game this week. Did you see that?
Yeah, that is something that I didn't expect, but also
I don't think anybody expected. It does make a lot of sense. The Hitman devs making a Bond game. Now, however, someone said to me, "Are we sure this isn't going to be this Bond game isn't going to be just Agent 47 with hair and a suit?"
That's
you know what
a
I
good
mean?
point. But I also kind of like that idea.
No, the idea makes perfect sense when you think about it. Like, yeah, you know what? Why not? IO Interactive, the makers of Hitman, making a Bond game where you're a secret agent. But the thing is with Hitman's all about being precise and being low profile, right? Bond's all about action. At least like in the beginnings. Like, sure, you can go through a mission covert, but then usually at some point all hell breaks loose and then it's like an action film, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Can IO do action stuff like that? Yeah, like I know they did Kane and Lynch, and that's more actiony. It's gonna be really
something random. I'd love a new Kane and Lynch game.
I mean, Kane and Lynch was pretty cool. I will say that. Faisal says, does the delay has to do with performance, and the console still needs to patching and updating, and they don't want the games to unperform? We'll be talking about that. We have some things to say about it because, geez, I don't know about how it is with you, Jez, but my DMs lately have just been filled with people upset about the Series X and Xbox in general lately. Like the whole Bethesda non-committal about if they're exclusive or if they'll be on PlayStation, and combining that with the fact that the world's most powerful console, 12 teraflops, games are running better on PlayStation, has got people a little bit upset. And my DMs basically have people coming to me trying to, what's going on here, Rand? Like, what? And I don't know what to say to these people. Like, I'm like, I don't know. Like, I mean, I can guess at the exclusivity thing and give my personal opinion on it, but like, and I can say what I've heard about, the hardware, but like, I don't know. Like, you know what I mean? And I also get DMs from people like, hey, we have the same TV and I'm having this issue. What do you think? Which I'll respond to. And then people will be like, hey, my Series X doesn't work. What do you think I should do? And I'm just like, bro, I would contact Xbox support. Like, I don't know. You know what I mean? Do your DMs like that?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, I can actually help with a lot of Xbox support questions because we cover that stuff and I have to research that stuff a lot. So I'm always happy to help when it comes to that stuff. But sometimes it's like the problem is like so complicated that I just don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
You closed your DMs too.
I did, but I've opened them again though.
You opened them again.
I closed them for a little while because I got a little bit like, oh man, I got so much work to do. Can't reply to everything. And I feel bad when I can't reply, but at the same time, got work to do sometimes.
Yeah,
It is
yeah.
what it is.
Case by Case Basis says, just when Xbox's own CFO has me down about Bethesda, Jim Ryan comes in for the rescue. Him not knowing tells me Xbox hasn't promised them anything. Well, it's a big topic. We got a lot to say about it. But yeah, back to the delays. So Annapurna Interactive delayed The Last Stop, The Artful Escape, and 12 Minutes. So you have those 3 games, plus the Medium, plus Crossfire X, games that were essentially supposed to be around the launch of the Xbox Series X, but wasn't, potentially because, the devs needed more time, COVID's still a thing, blah, 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 blah. And then, you have the supply issues that we've talked about that might be alleviated in May. And I know a lot of people probably won't like me saying this, but it's probably for the best, because you don't need those games now, or Xbox doesn't need those games now, because the hardware is completely sold out. It would be great to have those games. I'm not saying it wouldn't, but it would definitely probably serve Xbox better if those games came out sometime next year, because who knows what Xbox's lineup is for 2021. I mean, you got Halo Infinite, you got Psychonauts 2, you have Crossfire X, and you have these 3 indie games and stuff like that. But you get the point I'm trying to make, and I know you kind of agreed with me about this last week when we talked about it a little bit, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, it's like you say, they kind of don't need those games right now. If you've got like a stock issue where you don't have enough, you don't have enough supply to meet demand, maybe you save those games. I mean, they're not going to arbitrarily push them back, but it's kind of good. It's like you say, it's a good thing that they're delayed, because now they'll have more to advertise with the console when the stock actually comes back in and demand wanes and all that sort of stuff. So, it's just another one of those. It is what it is.
It is what it is.
It is what it is.
Interesting. Anyways, so you want to talk about the games running better on PS5 thing?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's
do it, man.
Okay. So when you give companies like Digital Foundry early access, and you set up Digital Foundry as like the, what's the word I'm looking for here, Jez? The truth.
Bearer?
What, the narrator? Did you say
the truth bearer?
The truth bearer of all things hardware and and game related and performance, because Xbox says they've kind of done that with them, right? They gave the exclusive reveal of the Xbox One X specs to them before anybody else, let them try out some games, gave them the Series X early, flew them out to Xbox headquarters, let them play around with the system, play some games alongside Austin Evans, right? So Digital Foundry, in essentially this short amount of time, has kind of been like the standard bearer, or the truth of performance of games, essentially for the next gen consoles, right? So you live by Digital Foundry, you die by Digital Foundry, right? And apparently Valhalla runs better on PlayStation 5, and that's an Xbox marketed game. And Xbox has, is the more powerful system, all that stuff. I mean, there's talks that Watch Dogs Legion is running better on PS5. I think the 120 frames mode runs better on Call of Duty. I think like 120 frames mode ran better on Devil May Cry 5 as well. And people are kind of like scratching their heads, wondering what's going on. Like, how can this be possible? Is there another reason why? Are the dev kits just better for PlayStation? And there's been some talk from a lot of developers that it's just easier to get their games up and running on PlayStation 5 than it is on Xbox. You've talked about on this podcast about how Xbox switched over to the GDK or some shit.
Game Core.
Yeah,
Game Core,
which is a change from what the developers were used to for the Xbox One gen, and that also has some issues. And Xbox was late with the dev kits and all that stuff. But are you hearing anything about any of the performance stuff for Series X? Is Microsoft worried that because I had always heard that the truth will come out. Microsoft was very much shouting from the rooftops that they had full RDNA 2 feature set, and Sony never came out and said otherwise. So that, because if that wasn't the case, then I'm sure Sony would have disputed it, but they never did, leading everyone to believe that, hey, well, Microsoft's being honest here. So what do you think is going on with this issue of a more powerful console essentially not running games as good as the lesser console, and power-wise, that is?
Well, we always say we're not a high-tech, super-duper podcast. Like, I don't know. I ain't confident enough with my knowledge of the technical aspects. All I can do is look at a spreadsheet and then ask one of our experts to tell me, okay, what's better? And like, if you look at the specs and the spreadsheet and all that sort of stuff, on paper, Xbox comes out on top. However, and this is the big however, which has got everyone upset, in just fan comparisons, that don't seem to be the case. Assassin's Creed performing better on PlayStation, amongst other games. Observer, I believe, performs better on PlayStation. I've been playing Observer. That's another game I've been playing. I've been playing Observer, which is scary as hell. I'm struggling to get through it. I got to a part in Observer where I need to go into a basement, and I'm just like, nah, I'm not going down there. But anyway, I digress. It doesn't perform well on the Series X. There are parts in that game which chug all the way down to 20 frames per second, and then it'll shoot all the way back up to 60 frames per second. It's just strange. Like, the performance on that game is really odd. But, I don't have any sources who've sort of been able to explain fully why this is. So all we can do really is speculate. And some of the things you can speculate on is RDNA 2, not as mature as RDNA 1, maybe. Microsoft's dev tools, not as mature as Sony's dev tools, maybe. That certainly was a rumor. I remember hearing back in the day that Microsoft's dev tools were coming in hot and that they weren't finished and that they weren't ready. I remember a lot of people pointing to that as a rumor. Maybe it was true. Maybe it wasn't. I have no idea. But I'm kind of like at the point where it's kind of like, well, Microsoft, you guys said this was the most powerful console. You guys have to prove it now. And thusly far, it's not been the case. So it's like you say, live by Digital Foundry, die by Digital Foundry. So will those games get an update when Microsoft further optimizes the dev kit or whatever? I have no idea. Are Microsoft going to comment on it? Probably not. I could reach out and ask for an official comment, but I, highly doubt they would reply with anything, meaningful. But just have to wait and see. I certainly believe still, over the course of the generation, Xbox should win out because mathematically it should, right? As far as we know. But we also don't know because we don't know what the dev tools look like and all that, all those other extraneous factors. And it just goes into prove that what is down on paper ain't necessarily what happens in the real world. It's like when, for example, one of the big things in the processor world right now is Apple's M1 chip for its MacBooks, right? And they were slamming Intel in their own internal benchmarks. So like on paper, the MacBook looks like some super powerful, super machine, but that doesn't necessarily always translate into the real world reality of things because you've got drivers to consider. Will developers actually port things natively to that architecture, stuff like that? And maybe Xbox is being tripped up by some of that stuff, but I have no idea. I have literally no idea. So if you are upset about the power disparity, the only thing you can do really is try and reach out to Phil and those guys on Twitter and ask them for an explanation because I sure as hell don't know. And I don't think you know either, do you, Rand?
I'm not surprised that the games actually run better on PlayStation at launch. Knowing that essentially PlayStation didn't change anything and it was just kind of a continuation of the tools that they've been using for a while. And Xbox, because even months and months ago, we had heard that Xbox has waited a very long time to get the full feature suite from AMD,
Correct.
and that
Yeah.
combining that with them switching over from their what you mentioned, like Era to whatever the hell the new one's called, GameCore. Like, I kind of
Yeah,
figured
right.
there would be, especially in a year with everybody working from home, and you're talking about new hardware, and you're also throwing at them like a new dev tools, when like when the other system is basically just a continuation of what is currently there, but just better. I'm not surprised that the games came out and are essentially performing very similarly, with a little bit better on PlayStation. Now, Gunstar has a question saying that, like, when can we expect a game that actually takes full advantage of the tech claims Xbox has made? Essentially, when cross-gen ends, because you're not going to see it any of that stuff anytime soon, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But I would say probably 2022. Because the majority of the games that are coming out this year and next year are all going to be cross-gen. All games that were essentially made with Xbox One and PS4 in mind from the very beginning, and built around those ideas, and just, ported or upgraded to the next-gen systems.
One thing that someone did say to me when I asked them why Watch Dogs Legion isn't 60 frames per second or whatever, is that, like, one of the things developers can do right now, and this is something you're going to see with Cyberpunk, is that for Xbox, they can take an Xbox One X version of a game and they can bolt Xbox Series X features onto it, even though it's not fully native, which is why Cyberpunk on Xbox Series X will have some extra features visually when compared to the Xbox One X. But they're still going to do a native Series X version next year, because that's what you need to do to get full advantage of the system. And again, I ain't a dev, so a lot of this stuff is like just what I've been told by people who are working on some of these games, and I don't understand that stuff. If I did understand that stuff, I might be developing games instead of writing about them. So I'm not going to sit here and claim to be an expert, but just it's just one of those things, But
Yeah.
it's on Microsoft, It's on Microsoft. If it upsets you or makes you mad that Microsoft sold the console based on its power and it's not delivering, you gotta let them know, man. I mean, this is what this podcast is for. It's their problem. They've lived by product truth. They've gave all their stuff to Digital Foundry to analyze, and the truth is the PlayStation runs games better right now. There's no one else who can explain that other than Microsoft. So,
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. They're the ones out there talking about the most powerful console ever, and they wanted that feather in their cap. They wanted to be the most powerful, and they wanted to be, they wanted the cheapest system, right? And they did that, at least so we thought. So I'm not surprised that people are upset with, like, the idea of, like, hey, wait a minute, you said these games, you said it was 12 teraflops of power, and we thought all these third-party games would run better, right? Maybe nobody thought there would be a significant, like, a difference between the two, right? Like, I'm not sure anybody really gonna, like, I'm not sure, like, anybody, like, thought there would be, like, essentially what happened with the Xbox One and the PS4 at the beginning, like 720p versus 1080p, where it was like a significant, like, resolution. Yeah, I always thought it was more going to be like a few frames here and there. Like, so it is surprising when I was watching, even though, like, in the back of my mind I was like, I wouldn't be surprised if the PS5 games run better. It's not that surprising when I watched Digital Foundry do a walkthrough of Assassin's Creed, and the Xbox version is consistently lower frame rate, to the point where, like, John and those guys are essentially sitting there like, what is going on here? Like, is there something else going on behind the scenes with the system? Is there problems elsewhere? Because, like, this shouldn't be happening. You know what I mean? Like, on paper, like you said, like, they even mentioned that in their kind of their talk about Devil May Cry. It's like it's just strange things. So it makes me wonder, like, maybe in a month's time, 2 months time, maybe it's something on Microsoft's end that's easily fixable, that just wasn't ready for launch or something, or
Dude, there's loads of little bugs that, like, the more you use the Xbox One, the more little bugs you find. Like the game DVR, for example. If you try and run the game DVR 4K HDR, it just shits the bed. It just doesn't work. So I've like had to set my game DVR to like 1080p SDR just to get my clips uploaded to Twitter and stuff like that. Like there's a lot of little bugs that have sort of appeared over time. Like right now there's a bug on the public ring where headsets with Xbox Wireless are really buggy and don't connect properly. However, that's fixed on the Alpha Ring for me. Like it works for me because I don't know, it's just fixed. But for people who aren't on the Alpha Ring, it's broken right now. And there's a lot of little bugs like that flying around. So I don't know. Maybe it could be a platform bug that's hurting performance. Maybe there needs to be a driver update. I have no idea. Just have to wait and see. But if it keeps happening consistently for years, Microsoft's gonna have to give up that most powerful console thing because it's gonna mean nothing.
Yep.
It means nothing if the real world performance, the end user experience ain't there. And Xbox fans are like probably rightfully defensive about it because lose the narrative on exclusives completely. Microsoft doesn't have an answer for like God of War, The Last of Us still, ever. Maybe never, don't know. So they had the narrative on power. Xbox One X, widely more powerful than the PS4 Pro. But now that whole narrative slipping again.
You brought up a good point about Xbox One X, because the Xbox One X had games that performed significantly better than their PlayStation 4 Pro counterparts. Now, not every game. A lot of developers chose parity, but there was quite a lot of games where developers went out of their way to make the games run better or look better given time. Like Red Dead Redemption 2 is just one of them, but even stuff like Wolfenstein. There are a collection of games that run and look significantly better on the One X than versus the PS4 Pro. And I think developers want their games to perform the best and look the best that they possibly can. So with that in mind, I do think there's some truth to what we've been talking about. I wouldn't be surprised if there's some issue on Microsoft's end that once gets fixed, the games will suddenly run better, or maybe it's a developer issue. Like, well, it can't really be a developer issue because a lot of these games have a lot of problems, so I think when that stuff is kind of ironed out, that I wouldn't be surprised if those games all of a sudden get updated and start running better for the Series X versus PS5. Just based on like how developers made their games look and run better on the One X. And then Microsoft, for whatever reason, decided to change their, format or whatever. And in a year with like COVID, and it's just like everybody's rushing for launch. It's probably not surprised that the system that did that is not performing as well as the ones who kind of just kept it the way it is. So I think we'll see. I think sometime next year maybe we'll see games get updated, and then suddenly like Digital Foundry having to do a relook at Assassin's Creed Odyssey because now it holds 60 frames instead of dropping. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that's definitely possible, but we'll have to wait and see.
We'll have to wait and see on that. Anyways, moving on from that, because it's tech stuff. I don't know. Dealer and Cult are better at that than we ever are. But that's just kind of what I'm thinking along those sides. So I mean, I understand people being angry because that's what Microsoft kind of sold the Series X as. But like, I mean, it's not living up to the expectations of, hey, third party plays best here. It's not true just yet. Maybe it will be true, maybe it won't, but I think eventually it will be. But yeah. The Game Awards, Jez. The Game Awards.
The Game Awards.
I saw your tweet.
Windows Central Game Awards?
Not the Windows Central Game Awards. This is the Jeff Keighley Video Game Insider Game Awards, right?
Oh, you mean the second best awards?
The second best awards, yes. So look, I actually like the Game Awards, and I appreciate what Jeff Keighley's trying to do for the video game industry. I know a lot of people don't like him because he's a Sony dude, and I mean he very much is. But I don't know. I really like Jeff Keighley, and I like the Game Awards. So I'm looking forward to seeing what happens here. Now, what do you think was the biggest notable snub for Game of the Year, Jez?
Well, Rand, if you're going to put it like that, quite clearly, it was strange that Ori wasn't, given a spot with those other games. I personally think
So,
because, yeah,
Game of the Year, right? It's always the category people pay the most attention to. Sure, you have like best game direction and best narrative and art direction and score and music, which I'm sure score and music, Ori's gonna win that. If Ori and the Will of the Wisp does not win best score and music, then there's something wrong. As good as the music is in Doom Eternal, and Last of Us Part 2, like Ori and the Will of the Wisp and Gareth Coker's music is just so far beyond all these other games, right? Best audio design, best performance, games for impact and stuff. Like these are all cool awards. But the one that everybody kind of focuses on is Game of the Year. So, to nobody's surprise, Last of Us Part 2 and Ghost of Tsushima were nominated for Game of the Year, right? Last of Us Part 2, people went gaga over, I don't know, it was like a 94 or something on Metacritic, 93. People were like, I remember people praising this game to death. And while the gameplay is phenomenal, I thought the story was juvenile at best. Man, I got so many problems with the story of this game. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like a lot of people hold this up as like, this is true art for video games. And I don't know. I feel like the story was essentially written by a 15-year-old. Like, the way... We'd have to go into like a spoiler talk about Last of Us Part 2, but like, I am not a fan of the story direction in that game whatsoever. I thought it was like very heavy-handed. And like... If the point was to turn Ellie into a completely evil bitch, then, well, they 100% nailed the whole aspect then. But, yeah, I have some issues with with The Last of Us Part 2 being...
I don't like it.
Yeah, it's just... Like, Last of Us Part 1 was an amazing game. Like, I think that won Game of the Year in 2013. I might be mistaken. And it should. Like, the relationship between Ellie and Joel in that game has never been done better than any other video game, like, ever made. Like, a relationship between two people. And they kind of completely ruined that in the sequel. Even though the gameplay is phenomenal. Like, it's one of the best stealth games you could play and ask for. And it's clearly a lot of money. But, like, the story, like, it's just bad. And it's not... I know a lot of people are like, well, you know, like the whole like social justice. I'm not even talking about like that stuff. Like I don't care about Abby and or that the fact that what happens to Joel or anything like that. I'm just talking about the story. I think the story is bad. And so while I'm not surprised to see it here, and it probably will win Game of the Year, I wouldn't vote for it. Right? And then we have Animal Crossing New Horizons. What the is this game doing on this list? Why is I understand why Animal Crossing is here. It's another 90 Metacritic game. And Nintendo people love it. And journalists love it. They love to just go around in their little world. I'm sorry. Animal Crossing, boo. Boo.
Oh, come on, man. Animal Crossing deserves to be there because... It came out during this awful lockdown pandemic, and it was just like this nice little island escape. And maybe that shouldn't count towards it winning Game of the Year, but I don't know, man. There's some I didn't play much of it because it's not my kind of game. I did play it a fair bit, and I completely agree that it deserves to be in that list.
Yeah,
personally.
RDX says, "See the Coolers game console coming out." I have not seen that. No, I understand. Like, essentially, these nominees were exactly what I thought was going to be. Like, the only game that was surprising in any way. Actually, none of these games are surprising. the biggest snubs, like you said, were Ori and Half-Life Alyx. Because Half-Life Alyx kind of seemed to be the seminal moment for VR, right? The return of Half-Life, this VR experience that you never had before, and it was like it felt like a shoo-in for Game of the Year, like highly rated on Metacritic, but maybe not enough people played it to really kind of get the votes needed.
Yeah, I think like how explain to us how the voting works because
I'm not
it's
really
not exactly just Jeff Keighley.
no
That does
Jeff
it, is
Keighley.
it?
It's a I think it's like Jeff Keighley doesn't vote in any of this stuff. I know a lot of people like always accuse him of that. But it's like there's like the bunch of websites that
A bunch of pro game
yeah, a bunch of
journalists.
like websites from around the world. I think all vote on these things, and I'm not really 100% about how the nominees are picked, but I think I think they send in their top like 1, 2, 3, and then they tally them up, and the ones that get the most votes gets the nominees, and then like they pick, what are the nominees? Like here's the vote for the winner. I think it's something like that. I could be wrong. Somebody might correct me in chat, right? So then we have Ghost of Tsushima.
Could ask someone, I guess.
Yeah, you should.
Because
So
some of our I think because I'm part of Future, right, which own PC Gamer and Games Radar. I think those websites do get a vote, so I could just ask them how it works. I don't get a vote because I'm scum, but those pro game journalists, they sure get a vote. However, the problem is these pro game journalists, they don't seem to like Xbox very much, and and a lot, like you say, probably don't own VR headsets. So it comes a point that there is a bias there against the VR because they probably don't own it. And is that VR's fault? Should the game of the year should a game not win game of the year because game journalists didn't have access to it? I don't know. It kind of points to the way that the way the media is for the film industry and the way awards are given in the film industry. There's still such a wide gulf in maturity between the way video games and film are covered.
yeah.
It's weird. It's weird. That's a whole nother conversation, though.
So then Ghost of Tsushima is nominated, which if I had to pick right now for my game of the year, it would be Ghost of Tsushima. I love that game. I think it's great. And that's saying something considering I have it above Ori 2. But then again, I played Ori 2 when it had a lot of problems. But Ori would be my second. And I do think... I do think Ori's snubbed here. Like, honestly, I wouldn't put Last of Us 2 in here, personally, because I don't think it's worthy. So I think Ori 2 should take over for Last of Us Part 2. Clearly, I wouldn't have Animal Crossing on this list, right? Because Nintendo, lol. Right? You know what I mean?
Wow, that is shade, man.
Yeah. So then we have Final Fantasy VII Remake, which isn't surprising. I've kind of once those great reviews came out for that game, and a lot of games journalists kind of grew up with Final Fantasy VII, right, as their first kind of foray into video games, and then it gets remade. So no surprise that the game was nominated. Doom Eternal, not a surprise either. I mean, maybe you could make a case that maybe Ori was left out because people forgot about it. It came out in March, but then so did Doom Eternal.
Well, that's another thing. That's another point that people made. Where's the nominations for Jedi Fallen Order?
Yeah,
because that wasn't eligible last year, and now it is. But all the game journalists have forgotten about it.
That's true. So you have Doom Eternal, which Bethesda game, but now owned by Microsoft. Well, not technically yet. So does this count as a Microsoft game, Jazz? No, of course not, because they didn't make it. They weren't involved with the production of it. But now that it's nominated for Game of the Year, it's going to be interesting to see what id does after this, because its next game will be under Microsoft. So you better hope that the next game they make, if it's another Doom game, is as good as Doom Eternal, right? Otherwise,
but don't forget that id lost its game director recently.
Oh, where'd he go?
Doom Eternal. He's retired.
Oh, okay.
I can't remember his full name.
And then
his
we have
him, and then something. But I always think of Tim Schafer. Tim Schafer's Double Fine.
And then we have the token indie nomination, Jez. This always happens every year. Token indie nomination. I think last year was Celeste, if I'm not mistaken. What's an indie game that people really love. And this year it's Hades. And if Hades didn't come out this year, I would say it probably would have been Ori. But Hades came out from early access on Switch and PC, and people love it. I hear nothing but praise from people playing it. It's kind
When
of a
did
roguelite.
Katana Zero come out?
Katana Zero came out last year.
Okay. Because I would have said Katana Zero is better than Hades, but I also think Ori's better than Hades. Like, I've played a fair bit of Hades, and it's a really cool, slick game, unique, but it's not better than Ori. It's just not.
Well, the game journalists think it is, and they're the ones who vote on it. So I'm not surprised Hades is here. Now, the other question I had is Cyberpunk. If Cyberpunk actually came out, I 100% expected it to be nominated for Game of the Year. So if it was, which one of these games wouldn't be nominated? I would say Doom Eternal, probably. If Cyberpunk was Game of the Year, it probably would be Doom, right?
Yeah, probably.
But if we had to pick,
when we were doing our Game Awards, because we're a Microsoft website, we're only games eligible are games that release on Xbox or Windows. So loads of people nominated, and we asked the whole team to vote on any game they won. Loads of people voted for Doom Eternal just because, like, what else is there on Xbox, really? You basically just got Ori and Doom Eternal that are like games that are sort of Game of the Year worthy.
Gunstar says this kind of goes to you, Jez. Was Microsoft Flight Sim not eligible? That game is like, and he has like awe face. No, it was eligible and it was nominated, but not Game of the Year.
Well, yeah, Microsoft Flight Simulator actually won our top PC Game of the Year, just about beating Doom Eternal, from internal discussions and voting. So, like, yeah, I don't know. It's really strange because video games is like, it's like a different medium, Like you say, there's always a token indie game every year. They don't do that for the film industry. They don't give indie movies like a leg up or whatever. I don't know. It's like there's a philosophical thing. It's like a evolving thing that you'd really need to look at and see how it goes over time. But yeah, I actually asked a few people recently what they think about how the film industry is treated with so much more reverie than video games as an art form, despite the fact video games makes far more money and has far more people involved in it. So it is weird
because video games are still seen as childish things. You know what I mean?
Do you think it's a generational thing? Like, eventually,
yes,
they'll just, like, when we're old and we're still doing this podcast when we're like 60, if I live that long, then video games will get their due, and like everyone will watch the Game Awards with Jeff Keighley coming out with the walking stick.
I think the Game Awards I think the Game Awards has higher ratings than the Oscars last year. I'd have to look.
Is that? But that's not televised, right? That's like that's judging by online viewership, right?
I mean, true, but I mean, viewership is viewership, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess so.
We have Doom Eternal, Final Fantasy VII Remake, Ghost of Tsushima, Hades, Animal Crossing: New Horizons, and Last of Us Part 2. If you had to put on your predicting cap right now to say which game wins Game of the Year, which game is it?
Probably Last of Us.
You think Last of Us Part 2 is going to win?
Probably.
See, I think it's a three-way race. I think the only three games that have a chance of winning are Last of Us Part 2, Ghost of Tsushima, and Hades. And I think Hades has an outside chance of winning. But if I had to pick, I'm going to say it's Ghost of Tsushima. I don't know. That's the one I want to, but I think with them releasing the multiplayer and with how like widely loved the multiplayer portion of that game is, and it was done for free, I think that also gave a lot of goodwill for people who are reviewing the game. And yeah, the safe bet is saying The Last of Us Part 2 would be the winner because it's the higher rated game and it's the sequel to Last of Us, right? And maybe it will win, but I don't know. I just kind of feel that I kind of feel it's either Ghost of Tsushima or Hades, and I'm just gonna say Ghost of Tsushima. But I wouldn't be surprised if Hades won. Like where like people split the vote on Last of Us Part 2 and Ghost of Tsushima because they're PlayStation games, and then Hades kind of sneaks in there. Because I don't think Animal Crossing, Doom Eternal, Final Fantasy VII Remake stand a chance at winning. Personally.
No. Man, Final Fantasy VII would have been my game of the year if it wasn't for the ending.
Yeah.
I
Microsoft did have 2 games nominated for Best Strategy Game. Well, Best Innovation and Accessibility, Grounded was nominated. Microsoft had 8 nominations, which is the second most. Sony had 22. Ori's nominated for Best Action Adventure Game and score and music. Best Strategy, Sim Strategy, Microsoft Flight Sim and Gears Tactics are both nominated. Like, I would imagine, like, Best Sim Strategy, you have Crusader Kings 3, Desperados 3, Gears Tactics, Flight Sim, and XCOM Chimera Squad. Like, it's got to be either Gears or Microsoft Flight Sim, right?
No. It's going to be Crusader Kings. Crusader Kings is going to completely dominate that.
Oh, you think so?
Yeah, definitely. Dude, Crusader Kings is sick. I mean, it's a crazy game and it's really popular. I think Crusader Kings will win that easily.
Yeah. Anyways, that's what we think is going to happen with Game of the Year. So, Scarecrow says, "Why isn't Rand nominated as Best Influencer at the Game Awards? Much love, guys. Have a great weekend." It's a good question. Why isn't Rand nominated? I'm a nobody. You have
Is that a thing?
Alana Pierce. Yeah, Alana Pierce is nominated. Tim the Tatman, Valkyrie, Nick Merckx, best online personality or whatever. Yeah, totally, totally a thing.
Oh my god.
Oh, and by the way, remember our talk about Hitman and the Square Enix IP or the Hitman IP? I'm looking at the trademark right now for Hitman, and it is indeed owned. Current owners are Square Enix Limited.
Wow.
So
that's hilarious.
Yeah, they just licensed it out to IO Interactive. They still own the IP. Anyways, moving on from that, let's talk about the Bethesda exclusivity. This is a big topic. I got so many DMs about this. I did a video about it. Me and you had a very lengthy discussion in DMs about it. I've asked people about this, and for a while there, a lot of people were very much convinced that when Microsoft purchased Bethesda, that the games would be exclusive to Xbox, right? Even though there were some people that were like, "Oh, they'll still be on PlayStation." Most people felt, "Hey, Microsoft, you don't spend that type of money to then just give the games to PlayStation. It doesn't make a lot of sense." And a lot of Phil's quotes recently have kind of pointed to those ideas, right? Well, then the corporate financial officer of Xbox started talking, and we kind of mentioned some of his comments about the supply issues and all that stuff. But he really said some things that got now people teetering on this idea that the Bethesda games will also release on PlayStation and Nintendo. Because he talked about how they had no intentions of pulling games from other platforms, and it wasn't really clear if he was just referring to stuff like Fallout 76 or existing games. It almost made it, when you read it, made it sound like he's talking about future titles, right? But then the big thing was that he mentioned how they wanted Bethesda titles to show up first, better, or best. Which, I mean, I'm sorry, there's no other way to read that comment than saying those games will be on PlayStation. Because if those games were exclusive, you wouldn't need to say first, better, or best. First implies that it's going to be somewhere else. Like, if you're saying we want this game to be first on Xbox, it implies it's going to be going somewhere else. Same thing, better or best. Like, it implies that it's going to be somewhere else, and you want it to be better on your platform. So, I was thinking, you know what? Tim Stewart's got to know. I mean, he's the money man at Xbox. He's the corporate financial officer. Maybe he just kind of slipped up and told people the truth, while Phil and everybody else are kind of being a little bit low key, case by case basis. Kind of waiting to tell people what their plans are while it goes through the U.S. regulators and the deal goes through. So Jez, I'm sure everybody's waiting on bated breath to hear what you think, what we think. So, do you think the games will be exclusive to Xbox, or do you think his comments kind of paint a picture of the truth of the situation, and that Microsoft spent all that money and they're just going to put it on PlayStation and Nintendo anyways? What do you think? What are you hearing? Like, what are your feelings on this?
Well, my feelings are still that you don't spend that kind of money to publish the games on another platform. And especially when you look at Phil Spencer's comments recently, he said things like, I don't need to release those games on PlayStation. So if you don't need to release those games on PlayStation, why would you do it? The only logical explanation I can think of is, you're afraid of the negative PR, or you consider a franchise to be so big that it's better to just release it on PlayStation to continue driving that halo effect. Because there's one thing you got to think about with certain franchises. So Minecraft, for example, Minecraft hooks into mobile audiences, and when you've got a mobile phone audience, you make a load of money with like really good margins. But in order to get that mobile audience out there, at least in the case of Elder Scrolls, it's built on the back of their console and PC games, right? So maybe Elder Scrolls maybe they consider Elder Scrolls to be such a big franchise that in order to keep driving people to like Elder Scrolls Blades or whatever, or Elder Scrolls Online, they need to keep driving that halo effect everywhere with engagement as your number one thing. So I think there is like an outside chance that Elder Scrolls, Fallout, games that have a service component, mobile phone component, and let's not forget, Fallout Shelter is way bigger than Fallout's ever been on PC or console. Maybe to continue driving the halo effect, getting people to buy the mobile games or spending microtransactions in the mobile games. Maybe in order to do that, you need to keep releasing those games on PlayStation to keep driving that engagement. And that's all all that they care about for those businesses is engagement. However, I think it could also go the other way, and they could just be like, well, those games are big enough without PlayStation, and maybe the whole idea is, we want people to play those games in xCloud on their phone. Because let's remember, next year, Tom Warren reported, and I've also heard now from my own sources, that xCloud is going to be upgraded to Xbox Series X early in 2021, rolling out throughout the rest of the year. So, if you don't, and technically, if everyone's got a mobile phone, right? Do you guys even have phones?
Do you guys? Yeah. What is this? The whole that guy about with the Diablo phone game?
The Diablo.
Yeah,
yeah.
Is this?
Do you guys even have phones?
Yeah.
But that's the thing. Like, it's not like we live in a world now when it comes to Xbox Game Pass, so that Microsoft games are more accessible than ever. So there's certainly an argument to be made that you're not restricting PlayStation gamers from getting access to Elder Scrolls Blades or Elder Scrolls 6, because they've got a phone or they've got a TV app they can play it on. They don't necessarily need an Xbox to play Elder Scrolls. And that's how you get those people to subscribe to your service. Like, logically, just going off the pure logic of it, it doesn't make any sense if you're trying to drive xCloud and you're trying to drive Game Pass. It doesn't make any sense to release that game on PlayStation. It makes more sense to say, well, why don't you play it on your PC? Why don't you play it via Game Pass? It makes far more sense to do that. But on the other hand, maybe they're not that confident in xCloud's performance yet. Maybe they're not that confident in xCloud's uptake. Maybe they're not confident that xCloud's going to have all these services in place by the time, say, Starfield launches. So maybe Starfield falls back on a more traditional launch where it's like, well, we don't expect PlayStation gamers to be able to play this kind of game on our service because it's not good enough. But then it's kind of like, well, Does that mean you're not confident in your service? To me, there's no real win from putting it on PlayStation here. If your goal is to drive Xbox Game Pass, logically to me, it makes sense to just put it in Game Pass and put it on Xbox platforms or any platform that has Game Pass. You're still giving people access to the game, making it more affordable, and also the exclusivity will drive new people into your ecosystem. Maybe they'll sell Xbox Series S consoles and stuff like that. Going off the pure cold hard logic, it just doesn't seem to make any sense to me. But then again, Microsoft also does a lot of things that don't make a lot of sense to me. So, it could potentially go either way. But I'm still pretty firmly planting my flag in this idea that there will be exclusive to Xbox Game Pass platforms. So PC, phone, wherever you can get Xbox Game Pass, I believe that's where the Bethesda games will live. Because the alternative just doesn't seem to make a lot of sense to me if I'm understanding Microsoft's vision correctly.
Yeah, and I pretty much agree with you on that. Like, if I'm understanding Microsoft's vision, like, it doesn't make any sense for them to put their games on PlayStation. Like, Microsoft, like, I don't know how many times I've heard Phil talk about how the console market isn't growing and that, like, all the growth opportunities on PC and mobile. And it doesn't make sense to spend all that money to then just give your competition, because as much as they don't say PlayStation's their competition, they still compete with them directly. I mean, PlayStation certainly thinks of Xbox as competition. You had Jim Ryan even talk about it in some of his comments about how, they respect what their competition's doing. So you have PlayStation looking at Xbox, and they're trying to do whatever they can to get people to choose PlayStation. They're making deals to get stuff like Final Fantasy games exclusive to the platform. They made 2 deals with Bethesda before Microsoft acquired them to get those games. Like, PlayStation's doing everything in their power to make everyone choose to play on PlayStation. And in my opinion, if you just were like, all right, we bought Bethesda, we need more content, and then we're also going to be putting Elder Scrolls and Starfield on PlayStation, like, it only gives PlayStation more of an advantage, right? And then I also look at, like, man, it would be really, really weird to have half your studios making multi-platform games and the other half of your studios making exclusive games. Like, what's the message there at that point? Like, hey, Ninja Theory, we love you, but your games aren't good enough to be on PlayStation. They're only good enough for Xbox. Arcane, you're great. You know what? You make games that are so amazing, they need to be multi-platform, right? Like,
yeah.
It's unless PlayStation is going to allow Game Pass. I mean, because Phil's talked about that. Like, he was only going to put games on other platforms if they have a full Xbox experience, meaning Xbox Live, Xbox Achievements, Game Pass. So unless the Switch and PlayStation get, those features, then I don't really see it happening. And I don't see PlayStation allowing Game Pass or any of that stuff on their platform. I think Minecraft is a one-off. Right.
In fact, you've got like Jim Ryan out here saying like you'll see our response to Xbox Game Pass soon.
Yeah, exactly.
And I pretty much expect PlayStation to copy Game Pass, down like 1-to-1 copy down the line.
You even think they're going to copy it with putting their exclusives day one? Because he's been very vocal about that, about them not doing it because their games are way too expensive to put in a sub. He's been, because if he does that, like, people will call him out on that because he's literally said the opposite. He can get away with the whole "we believe in generations" because they never explicitly said Spider-Man Miles Morales was exclusive to PS5. Those words were never uttered. People just took what he said and kind of extrapolated from it. But he's literally on record saying that those games won't be in a sub because they're too expensive. So you think they'll copy it 1-to-1 and like God of War Ragnarok will be day one in a PlayStation Game Pass sub or something?
I don't know the timing on it, but I do think eventually they will copy it 1-to-1 because, like, why wouldn't they? There's literally every shred of data Microsoft has about Game Pass is that it enhances retail sales, it enhances engagement, it enhances the viral marketing. There is literally no downside. There's no downside. right now to putting it in Game Pass because it actually causes retail sales to grow. And if the data is suggesting that, there's literally no downside to it. But maybe you could argue that, maybe they think that their games are so good that maybe Microsoft has that data just because nobody wants to buy Xbox games at retail or something. And this is the only way they're going to hear about them otherwise. But I don't know what their logic is, but I believe firmly PlayStation will copy Game Pass down to the wire eventually. No idea how long it'll take, but every shred of data suggests there's no downsides to it whatsoever. So, it's just another revenue stream. It's free money, basically. Why wouldn't you do it?
I mean, some people would say that God of War Ragnarok's going to sell 20 million copies at full price, and why would you put that into a subscription day one?
Maybe it'd sell 30 million if it was in Game Pass or PlayStation Pass or whatever you want to call it.
Well, I would say, like, what would make you more money? 40 million people paying you $15 a month for forever, or, a release of God of War, two PlayStation releases per year that sell 20 million copies at $60. Like, what would eventually make you more money in the long term, right?
Well, the thing is, you also have to remember 60. All that 100% of $60 doesn't go to Sony.
Well, a lot of it does, considering it's their own game. It's not like they got to pay licensing fee to themselves.
The digital version, maybe, but not
sure.
The
and as we all know, like everyone's buying more and more digital. Even people with disc-based systems, like everybody's going more and more digital. I mean, I agree with you. Like I've always said, I believe Sony will put their games on their version of Game Pass day one at some point. It only makes too much sense because Sony has a bigger audience, and they can probably and their games appeal to. I mean, just look at like how many people buy like Spider-Man and all that stuff. Like, you imagine if you put their games in a sub-service, you could have 20 million people subscribing to PlayStation Game Pass, like, really quickly. And then you'd only build up over the course of the generation. I think it happens. I'm just not sure when it's going to happen. But back to the Bethesda thing. So, like, if Jim Ryan is like, we have a Game Pass competitor coming, then they're not going to want Game Pass on their system, right? And if Microsoft's focus is putting, if their philosophy is like the biggest thing to them is growing Game Pass and getting these games out to the mobile audience where there's room for growth, then you wouldn't put it on PlayStation. But it's hard to really kind of come to terms with what the corporate financial officer said. First, better, and best. I mean, unless, of course, he just completely misspoke and they don't want to rock the boat, so to speak, because of the deal's not done and people are looking into it. And you got to remember, like, this isn't Xbox buying these studios, right? This is Microsoft, right? Microsoft, one of the biggest companies in the world, so they're a little bit under more scrutiny than, say, PlayStation is or Nintendo. So when Microsoft buys companies like this, they're always looked at with the fine-tooth comb, right? So if Microsoft's true intentions were like, yeah, we're going to keep everything exclusive, why do we didn't spend that money to also put them on PlayStation. We want content for people in the Xbox ecosystem, but then they also want to make sure the deal goes through. So they don't want to come out and say to everybody right out of the gate, yeah, we're going to fuck over PlayStation. Of course we are. Like, you think Elder Scrolls is going to be on PlayStation? You're smoking crack. You know what I mean? Right?
I just imagine Phil Spencer saying
I know, right? So
you're smoking crack, like it.
So they're like they're keeping it low profile. They're just biding their time until the deal goes through, and then they can do whatever they want. Now, I'm not partial to what they're going to do. I only have my opinions based on, Microsoft's strategy, which we've talked about for years here, and Phil's comments. And if I'm just going off that, then yeah, I think those games will be exclusive to the Xbox platform. Now, if then you add in these new comments, it does kind of like, well, what's the truth here? And that's just one of those things that only time will tell. But I'm leaning more towards that the majority of the games from Bethesda will be exclusive. Maybe Starfield, because of how close it's coming out. Maybe that game potentially is a timed exclusive, like 1 year. Maybe Elder Scrolls is so big of a franchise like Minecraft, where it's makes more sense for Microsoft to keep it multi-platform. But I don't know. Like, I'm kind of feeling that the vast majority of these games will only be on platforms that have Game Pass.
Yeah, I don't know. It's hard to say. I think Microsoft will be insane to like put Elder Scrolls on PlayStation, because it's not Minecraft. You know, Elder Scrolls Blades, whatever. It's still not as big as Minecraft, and it never will be as big as Minecraft. But it's still this sort of, it's a tentpole franchise that is sort of like, it's up there with the most amazing games franchises in the history of our industry. You would be insane not to position that as a flagship Xbox franchise, I think, given the fact that Halo has slipped so quickly in people's minds as a quality franchise. Like, why wouldn't you do that? Why wouldn't you make Elder Scrolls the face of Game Pass? Because, let's face it, it's not going to be Halo. Looks like a Lego game.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
RDX says Hitman Maker's making the new 007 game. Yes, we've talked about that. Faisal says he said we're not pulling all games from PS5. Well, he didn't exactly say that, but I get what you mean. Stodgy Caesar says, remind Jez how exclusivity screwed Windows Phone. How did exclusivity screw Windows Phone, Jez?
I have no idea.
Is it because a lot of the apps were only on iPhone and Android, so nobody wanted Windows Phone because they couldn't get apps for it?
Well, developers didn't want to make apps for it because it was a dead platform. It's like we're not in the same situation. Like, the two things killed Windows Phone. No Snapchat at the time Snapchat was blowing up. No decent YouTube app at the time, like, you know, YouTube was blowing up. That's what killed Windows Phone. Xbox really isn't in the same situation.
And Babyhand says Bethesda for console sales, then put on PS5. So, yeah, this whole Bethesda thing is interesting, and I don't think we'll get a straight answer from Microsoft until the deal goes through. And we might not even get one right then and there. Axel goes, screw you, Jez. Your eyes need to be checked. Halo is not a Lego game, you hater. Jez is a Halo hater. And I've just kind of learned to just pay him no mind when he says those things about Halo. Like, he says that, and I know he wants a response from me. And I'm just not going to give it to him, you know? I mean,
why not?
Like, here's the thing, Jez.
Come on, man.
As bad as Halo could look, it could look like a Lego game. I'll tell you what, though. It'll always be immensely more popular than Gears of War ever could be.
Yeah. But that's like saying, like, you know, Justin Bieber's more popular than
shut
Black
up
Sabbath.
with the that's my thing, I say. That's my thing, I say. Now, you don't say that. I'm just saying there's just a limit. Here's a question for you. This is how you know how popular Gears is. What's the franchise that is most likely to take a break after their next game? Halo Infinite or Gears 6? What franchise might go on break for a while? Halo or Gears?
I don't know if you want to answer that. I don't know if you want to ask that question, considering didn't they say that Halo Infinite's a platform and there won't be a sequel for a long time?
Yeah, but that is true. But Halo's gonna be there for 10 years. Gears 6, in my opinion, is the last Gears game ever.
Ever?
I would not be surprised to see once Gears 6 comes out, say 2023. I think it's the last Gears game, because where else do you have to go in that franchise for a numbered Gears game from the Coalition? I think that's the last Gears game they ever make.
Well, that's fine, you know. Don't overstay your welcome like some franchises, you know.
I mean, that is true. There is something to be said about overstaying your welcome, and if you do, you have to kind of change it up. You have to reinvent yourself, and Gears really kind of does need to reinvent themselves, right? So,
yeah, I guess.
Yeah, and so...
Yeah, some franchises just don't know when to quit, you know?
Well, some franchises are just too important to just not do. Like, Halo is just too important to Xbox and too important to video games, period. Like, Gears means nothing to video games and Xbox. You know,
Well, Lego sure is timeless.
Lego is timeless. You aren't wrong on that. It's also extremely popular. So, which is weird that Xbox and Halo doesn't have that tie-in with Lego. They have a tie-in with Mega Bloks. Like, who cares about Mega Bloks, right?
Oh, that is so weird.
It
Like,
is.
whenever they announce a new Mega Bloks, like I'm like, come on, man. No one wants Mega Bloks. What kid is excited about Mega Bloks for Christmas, man?
No.
None. Slap that stuff with Lego where it belongs.
Yeah, so
Man.
we kind of already touched on Jim Ryan talking about a Game Pass competitor. I think that's going to be really interesting whenever that happens because they have something cooking. I wouldn't be surprised if they combine PlayStation Plus and PS Now, kind of like how Xbox combined Xbox Live and Game Pass into one service.
I should do that.
And the way they talk about like there's something coming, do you think that includes PlayStation Now where they like rebrand it? Because they never talk about PlayStation Now. Do you think it's like a completely new service with a new name? Or do you think it's just going to be a revamp of PS Now? Like, what do you think it is, Jez?
Well, remember ages ago, Microsoft announced this big partnership with Sony for cloud services
that is true.
that materialized into nothing.
Well, it hasn't materialized anything. Yes.
So I'm kind of wondering if, like, they're gonna, relaunch PlayStation Now on a separate servers. Speaking of Microsoft servers, did you see that PUBG is now running on Azure as well?
Yeah, they're running on Azure now. Yep.
Yeah,
and I think Rainbow Six runs on Azure, right?
Yep, Rainbow Six runs on Azure. Yep, and now Minecraft does as well. Mm-hmm. And also, speaking of Minecraft, Minecraft Realms and servers are now available on PlayStation as well. Also running on Azure. Right. Interesting. So I forgot what the trailer for was because I went on such a massive tangent.
You did go on a tangent. It was just talking about Jim Ryan and the Game Pass competitor. And he also...
so if they're going to rebrand it.
Yeah, if they're going to rebrand it. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. He also talked about generation-defining games and how they probably won't show up until 2022. And a lot of people kind of took issue with that with him because he's like, well, are you saying God of War is not going to be a generation-defining game or, some of that stuff? And I kind of agree with him because 2022 is when I look at it like that is when next-gen only games will start releasing. Like, I don't think you're going to have a generation-only defining game in 2020 and 2021 when most of these games coming out will be cross-gen. It'll be like... And that's when we expect most of the Xbox first party to start hitting. That'll only be on Series X and S, right? Avowed, Fable, Forza Motorsport, State of Decay 3, like all their future exclusives, that's when they're all supposed to start hitting. So, and then that kind of brings in a lot of people's questions about, does that mean God of War Ragnarok is a PS4 game? He was kind of asked that, and he wouldn't answer the question. I mean, I'm not saying that means 100% that God of War, the next God of War, is a PS4 game, but I think it's highly likely. Just like Horizon Zero Dawn, or Horizon Forbidden West has a PS4 game, I wouldn't be surprised if God of War also has a PS4 version. There's a lot of money to be made. I mean, Spider-Man Miles Morales is going to sell a lot of copies because, PS4 has a lot of owners still. Like, it's just business.
Yeah. This is the reality of x86 development. It's like it's so easy to do the port. Why wouldn't you do it? It's not like backporting a PS4 game to the Cell processor, for God's sake. It's like it's much easier to do. It's more PC-like. So there's money to be made. I would not be shocked at all if God of War came to PS4 in some sort of like a lower resolution format because it's just so easy to do. You're leaving money on the table if you don't do it. And a lot of those subscribers are still going to be on the past-gen console too, like for PlayStation Plus and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
If you're building a platform, you got to go where your users are, and a lot of them still going to be on PlayStation, just like a lot of Xbox users are still going to be on Xbox One, which is why I think one day they'll convert Xbox One consoles into an xCloud box.
Yeah, they've already kind of talked about that. So, like, because right now, I watched your video about the cloud, the xCloud on PC. It was really cool.
Thank you.
But you mentioned, or at least we've talked about how right now the xCloud only does 720p, and while it doesn't really on the phone you really don't notice it, but like on a computer monitor you do, right?
Yeah,
And I know they're laying the groundwork for all that stuff. But when do you expect to be like? So when they start putting in the next gen server blades in there, are they starting with Series S? So 1080p, 1440p, or are they going straight to Series X, like 4K?
They're going straight to Series X.
So they're going straight to Series X.
Yeah, which I wouldn't be surprised if there's, the availability problems also has something to do with using a lot of that silicon to upgrade the servers. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case. But yeah, they're going all the way to Series X. That's what I've heard. That's what Tom Warren's heard. And which means that, it's another reason why the Xbox platform supports 1440p, whereas a PlayStation platform doesn't. If your internet speed's not good enough for 4K, maybe it's good enough for 1440p, So that's why Xbox supports that resolution, because that platform, even though a lot of people, you practically can't buy a TV that's 1440p. And the amount of people playing Xbox on a monitor can't be that big. But the amount of people who might be playing Xbox on a phone, who maybe their internet speed's good enough for 1440p, maybe that's who that's really for, So, yeah.
Victor says, in your opinion, how do you solve the Halo problem? Should they try a different team like Respawn or id or something else? Because Halo hype is dying daily.
Shut it down. Shut it down.
Jez would say shut it down, but no. I mean, I've been pretty vocal about this. I think Halo has a leadership problem. I think it starts from the top. And if I had to say, what would you change with Halo? I'd say you change leadership. Different vision for what Halo could be. So, that's kind of, I don't know, that's kind of the way I've always seen it. And now maybe it could do it better. Not saying that they couldn't. I mean, clearly, like, people remember when Doom was about to come out 2016, and people were like, "Really, Doom in 2016? Nobody cares anymore, right?" And then they completely kind of reinvented Doom, and people love Doom now again, right? Video Game Insider here. I think Halo just needs new ideas, fresh blood, different leadership, with new things to really kind of to do. I mean, honestly, that's what I would do first.
They should put me in charge of Halo.
You'd shut it down, so I don't want that to happen. I don't want that to happen whatsoever. So shout out to Brainstorm.
I'd make it
for the super chat. Thank you. I know. You'd make it a
card-based gacha game.
Yeah, whatever. We don't need that. So, yeah, I think we'd probably come to the end of the show. So if you guys enjoyed it, hit the like button, the subscribe button, notification bell, you know the drill. And I didn't forget about the 1-year Xbox Game Pass Ultimate giveaway.
Before you give that away, I'll just say that for people who are listening to this on podcast services, I will also do a 1-year giveaway on Twitter or something.
Well, there you go.
So follow me. Follow my Twitter.
Follow Jez on Twitter. If you want to see people who actually tweet, follow Jez, because I never tweet, and this week is a perfect example of that. I was too much busy playing video games. So we have a year of Xbox Game Pass Ultimate. I'm giving away now. Follow Jez; he'll be giving away a year later. So this is obviously, as I mentioned before, thanks to my buddy Pigamus Prime on Twitter. I've known him for years. I've literally known him for years. It's probably over 10 years at this point. He won the Hall of Fame in Xbox UK, the Xbox Hall of Fame, for having the most gamer score in the UK since like the inception of ever. It's got like 2.2 million. Me and him are good friends. We used to do a podcast together. Some of you listening may remember the gamer score popcast. And I know Pig will be listening to this later. So thank you, Pig. And I'm sure whoever wins this will be very happy. So the question then becomes, how do we give this away, Jez?
I don't know.
And I'm gonna give it away. Here's what I'm gonna do. I am going to. Let me think here. Let me think. God damn it! Let me think. I'm Video Game Insider here, for Christ's sake.
Why don't you think of a number, right?
Yeah. Okay. So I'm gonna type in a number
between one and 500, or however many people are listening.
I mean, I don't know.
Whoever gets closest to it, the first person who gets closest to it.
No, the first person that nails it. The first person that
Okay.
nails it. So it's a number between.
You're gonna have to make it. You're gonna have to make it less than 500 then.
Yeah, it's a number between 1 and 200. And I am typing it to Jez right now. Right? See the number, Jez?
Are you on Twitter?
No, I put it in Discord.
Oh right, yeah, yeah.
See
I
it?
see it? Yeah.
Okay. So it's a number between 1 and 200. I'm watching chat. First person to guess the number wins the 1 year of Xbox Game Pass Ultimate. So go. Type a number.
While we're doing the question segment.
In between 1 and 200. If you guys have any questions, make sure you hit us up in chat. You see the number, Jez? Because I don't. I'm looking.
I'm not looking at chat.
Oh man, maybe we did this wrong because now I see a bunch of whole.
Oh dear.
I'm trying to scroll through, and I don't see it yet. Still scrolling. So, Jez, why don't you talk while I look for this number? I'm scrolling. Is this the number between 1 and 200, not 500?
Yeah, 1 and 200. Well, if people can't guess it, we'll narrow it down to between 1 and less than 200.
Yeah, see, so many people are typing numbers that it's like showing up as like message held for review, but I can see them all. Man, I picked a number that nobody's guessed yet. This is weird.
Why don't you narrow the range to give them a clue? Narrow the range.
Like people, all right, stop typing numbers. Jesus Christ, it's going crazy. Like I can't keep up with it.
Oh mate.
See, I don't know. Giving this all away is just. Look at all this. It's still coming in.
Seriously, no one got it?
I mean, it's hard for me to like scroll from top to bottom, but I mean, I have not seen a single person type it in yet. I mean, I could have missed something, but
just make it easier. Between 1 and 100.
Well, no. See, it's still just going. Jesus. All right, everybody. I know we're on like 20-second delay. Everybody, stop typing. Everybody, just stop typing because I can't keep up with these numbers. Oh
my god. What you need is a. Oh man, does YouTube have bots like Mixer? Back in the day, you could just do a random roll for anyone who's in chat, and then Mixer would pick someone.
I mean, I still have not seen it show up.
That's crazy.
Oh, actually, I see it.
Oh!
Actually, I see the number.
Who's the winner?
Rondell Love.
Rondell Love?
Rondell. Rondel Love. Rondell Love. Because I saw it, and I don't... I'm scrolling up. Oh, no, never mind. Someone posted it above him. Skyro Reacts.
Skyro Reacts. Oh, bad luck, Randall.
Yeah, sorry. Like, a lot of these numbers coming in here. I mean... Yeah, this went to shit, didn't it? I didn't know the best way to hand it out was just like post the code in the chat and have somebody, like more likely a bot, be able to enter it really quickly, you know? Like I'm just scrolling through everything, and Skyro Reacts was the first one who actually I saw that had the right number, and I'm still scrolling up, and I do not see the number. Like, he was the first one. So, Skyro Reacts, looks like you won. I'm still looking to see if there was one posted before yours. Doesn't look like it. So, make sure you DM me on Twitter. And I will send you that 1-year code. So, congratulations. Buddy. Yeah, DM me on Twitter. And I know, Sean, right? The sadness in my voice. I didn't expect it to be like this because I think we did a giveaway like this before and it was similar, but I didn't expect all these numbers to pop up. The number was
you should have said like between 1 and 50 or something.
Yeah, what was the number? The number was 79. 79. And his was the only 79 I saw, so he wins. So
do some questions and then
yeah, we'll take some questions and then we'll get out of here. So anybody got some questions for us? We appreciate Pig giving us the code for the giveaway. Congrats, Skyro, for picking the right number. I'm sorry this kind of went all to shit. Maybe I'll give away another code next week, and we'll do it in a much better way. You know what I mean? Because that turned out way worse than I thought. But I just don't really know if there's a really good way to actually to do it. So
giving stuff away is hard, man. Like, I know from the Mixer days. Do you remember Mixer?
I remember
Do
Mixer.
you remember Mixer?
The funny thing is like right when it started, 2 people typed in 78, and I was like, oh man, they almost got it, and that was like right at the very beginning. So, anyways,
You know what Microsoft should do? They should take 343's budget and they should have given it to Mixer.
they should have. Anyways,
You just don't react.
Mixer, screw Mixer. We all knew it was gonna end anyways.
Yep.
You know, I mean, we all knew. It actually ended
Man.
It actually ended way quicker and faster than I ever thought it did. So yeah. Anyways, it doesn't look like we have any actual questions. I'm sure there were people that put 79 way before, but it didn't look like it because I was looking at the numbers. So, Skyro, make sure you DM me and I'll give you the code, and we'll be back here next week for another episode of the Xbox 2 podcast. Friday, which is the day after Thanksgiving, Black Friday, so it's gonna be pretty interesting. Are you actually gonna be able to do it next Friday, or?
Oh yeah. Oh, am I? Yeah, I'll be able to do it, I think.
Yeah, so it'll be a Friday. If not, it'll be on Saturday. So, want to thank everybody for coming out, and yeah, we'll be here next week. You got anything to say before we get out of here, Jez?
Nah, just be lovely to each other. Play some games. Post some clips on fleets. Do you have fleets yet?
No, I see that stuff. It's so dumb. Stupid fleets.
Oh man, I like fleets. Fleets are cool.
So keep it gaming.